Good evening, everyone. Today is August 11th, 2026. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for one more chance to come together, fellowship with one another, have good conversations and good healing atmosphere. We ask you that you will bless our conversation and the viewers as well. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Yo, what's good, everybody? Uh, we just going to jump right into the show tonight. Happy birthday to everybody that celebrated over this past week. I know my aunt Angie celebrated her birthday again. Happy born day to my dad, who we talked about last week. Um, and everybody else, congratulations to all the children out there that's going back to school. I know some people they start earlier down here in the South than they do up north. But I know that some kids were going back to school today, so let's be mindful of that. Let's be prayerful. Let's keep them in our prayers, as well as the teachers, all of the staffs, the custodial workers, the lunch counter people, everybody that's involved with our children. Let's pray for the safety of them. We seeing so much different things in schools these days that we wasn't faced with coming up. So let's be mindful of that and keep all the staff and teachers again. As well as the children in our prayers as they go about their day to days. Um, with that being said, we had a real good conversation the last time she was on. I like her vibe, um, so I wanted to have her back on. She's a real estate mogul herself, so we wanted to talk a little bit about home ownership, the do's and don'ts, the pros and cons of how you want to go about things, and get you some information for you, some of you first time home buyers. If you guys are already in a home and you might be looking to downsize now that the kids are gone and all these different things here. So, with that being said, I want to welcome back to the show Miss Monica Boswell. How are you today, Monica?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, were you able to share that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'm gonna look while we're talking. But for those that didn't see you the last time we were here, just give them a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you. My name is Monica Boswell. I am deeply involved and married to real estate. It's not just what I do; it's also what I love. I enjoy it very, very much. We have a firm in North Carolina, and we cover pretty much the whole state, but we focus on the Triangle, Charlotte, Greensboro, and Fayetteville. So we help people with all aspects of real estate purchasing, leasing. We dabble sometimes in commercial. I try not to do that too much because I like the drama that comes with helping families find a house. I love it. But we also have a firm, so there's agents that are at the firm and we do a lot of training and mentoring and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Mhm. I'm trying to see how to do that. I got a new phone, so everything is totally different. Okay. Uh,
Did you jump over to the iPhone folks, or are you with the
Absolutely not, and
team?
never will. I will never go to Team iPhone. People will always get on me. All my friends, you need to get your iPhone. You need to get your. I absolutely will not, because the arrogance that you guys have is absurd to me. A phone is a
The
phone.
air is very clear over here. The air is very clear.
A phone is a phone. You're not better than me because you're a Democrat or a Republican. Just like you're not better than me because you have an iPhone.
I
When I
agree,
call,
but
you're going to answer, and
it's
vice versa.
you can only say that because you haven't joined us. Once if you were to come over here, you'd say, "Oh, I see."
That's what they say when that's what them cult leaders say as well. We're not really a cult. We're just an organization of people that like to come together in fellowship. It
Touche, touche.
is so funny. My friends, my close friends, they always get over to see. I told you, you need to get your job. No, I would never, because I never want to become one of them.
Because you're turning the chats the wrong, like you're making the chats complicated. It just is so much easier to communicate.
And that's what they say. But guess what? It's no, and that's one of the things that my knocks on Apple too. Like, Why do you have to be so different as far as changing the keyboard? The traditional keyboard was just fine, but you want to move the Y and the Z just because you're Apple and you. I'm good. I'm not bougie Y like that. Like I'm very basic. I got my laptop here, so if I really push come to shove, I want to FaceTime with someone, I can also do that as well. But guess what? Androids, we get to do video to video sharing too.
I heard that you guys have finally come around.
And it's been like that. It just wasn't popular, you know.
It wasn't right. It wasn't popular.
It wasn't as popular as FaceTiming.
Right.
But then they have their own term for it.
You're
But
right.
they've been had Duo and different apps and stuff that you could talk, see each other. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. I'm trying to figure out if you need to do it though, because I know some people. It's like when I go to share it on some people wall on their page because of their settings, their privacy settings, whatever. So you might have to manually be able to go to do it. So like if you share from my page, you should be able to share it to yours if you want.
Probably do that. Let's see here. I got you. It came right up. Look at that. Okay.
And y'all please excuse my Donnie playing in the background. I just having a moment with one of my favorite artists of all time.
I love, I had a moment this week myself with Karen White. She's not my favorite artist, but
wow, yeah, that's a flashback right there.
And I'm still thinking about it. Karen had some bangers, back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
That's boy. I haven't heard that name in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I always was a subtle fan somewhat of a subtle fan of Karen as well. Like you say, that late 80s, early 90s. She definitely had a vibe going on.
She was a vibe. She was a whole vibe. And I was way too young to be singing her music, but I did.
Isn't it funny how that is? I always try to tell people, especially like, our age group or like you say, that age range, being a teenager in the 80s and the 90s, that era, it's like all the songs that was like our favorite. Even as a kid, I don't know what it was. It was like I didn't listen to a lot of love songs around that 12, 14 age because it used to really make me depressed. I had no idea what love was. I had never had my heart broken, but it was like, but then I thought about like all the songs that I actually did love, like "Congratulations, Vesta."
Oh, that was.
Everything Shirley Murdoch ever sung was beautiful, but it was all toxic.
I remember going to the mall, getting Shirley Murdoch's tape and coming home and just belting. I mean, I couldn't even just belting out of my gut. Like I had gone through some things, And when she said that she was leaving secular music, I was like, oh man, yeah, we lost a good one. But she's still making really good music. So yeah,
Secret Lovers was one of my all-time favorites. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And it's like you didn't really get the message. It was just something about the music.
Yeah.
Like people be creeping all the time. They've been creeping all along.
It's literally one of the oldest things.
Absolutely. And I was literally having a conversation a couple of weeks ago about that, and people was like, "This music is just so out there in the subject matter." I said, "Listen, go back and listen to some of them Temptations and the Four Tops and this one here and that there. They were saying the same thing. They just was more poetic about it. It wasn't that in your face and the JJs and the poles and they had different terms. They was more clever with the wording." You know what I mean?
It's biblical. I mean, didn't David send, what was his name, Uriah out to war?
Exactly.
Yeah, and because he wanted Bathsheba.
Not even just sending him out there, he sent him to the front line.
Sent him to the front line. He was like, listen, and if we thought about that conversation happening in 2026, how would it have gone? He would have been, probably smoking a black and mild, talking about this dude on out here.
Hey, look, dude. I know this dude that got a job, man. You looking to make some extra money?
It's like, have you seen this woman? Like, that's mine right there.
And just think about the opposite side of it. Here it is. We got to explain how you got pregnant, but I was overseas for the last 8 months. Exactly. So make sense.
It was
You the new version of Mary, the Immaculate Conception. Yeah, it would be so crazy, and it's I don't know why, but while we right there, we ain't got to talk about it. But it's like I don't know where this thought came from, but I think it's really sad. I forgot what I was listening to or having a conversation or what we were talking about. But I remember in the back of my mind thinking, it's just to me, it's so sad how many men. You know, last time you were on, we were talking about fatherless daughters and whatnot. But to me, it's also so sad how many men are raising children that aren't theirs for whatever reason. You know, like she might have known that this dude here, the sex was good, but he's never going to really amount to anything. But this dude right here, so I can blame him. You know, I literally know quite a few people that are raising other people's children that have no idea that that's not their actual biological child, and that's neither here nor there. But I just think that that's a sad situation, and only God could judge us. You know, we listen, we don't judge, as they say nowadays. But that's a horrible type of person to me. You know what I mean? At least have a conversation with me. You know, listen, this is what it is. I would just rather know the up front, because one thing for me, I tend to believe that um I always say, especially when we talking about like sports and different things, it's the farther you are removed from a thing, the easier it is to change the narrative or the history, right? But when you it always made me think about D.L. Hughley. I remember listening to D.L. and Hughley in an interview. I used to listen to his morning show just about every morning when I first got in the area where it was being broadcast. And from time to time, he would always mention how he couldn't stand his sperm donor. He wouldn't even call him his dad, and this here and that there. And then years later, he finally said it on one of the shows. He's like, you know what? I wanted to ask my father for forgiveness, but my father was dead and gone. And I realized, like, you know, my father might have not been as bad as I thought he was. Everything all the information that I got came from mom. But mom was hurt, mom was bitter, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And I wonder sometimes how many people are living with that right there. You know what I'm saying? You got this viewpoint or this perspective of an individual based off of information that you received from somebody else, not firsthand experience. They never did anything to you personally, but you know what I mean? So it's like you're guilty by proxy. I just think that that's sad on both sides, whether it's male or female, you know?
It is really sad. It cheats the child from an opportunity to know who they are. I think the child probably knows it, even though it may not be discussed, even if it's not spoken about. I think when you have a feeling in your gut that something is different about me, there is a lack of connection between me and this person, even if that person is great, even if that person is good to you. I think you know when there's a disconnect, and so it's unfortunate to cheat the child of the opportunity. I'll be honest. I wasn't making the best decisions when I was choosing to have kids, but I do believe that the kids have the right to know where they come from, and I think they definitely should know that. And any guy who chooses to raise children that are not his, God bless him. But you should give that person the choice, because what if something we see it on TV all the time, right? Somebody needs a liver,
I was just about to bring that up, yeah.
A kidney or something, or a blood transfusion,
blood types, and
and all this stuff. And so it's good. I think if you could, we should be honest about those things. But those are hard conversations to have. People have a hard time having hard conversations.
That's why they're called hard conversations, I guess.
Hard conversations. I actually kind of see it as a challenge, and for me, I think that we should have more difficult conversations. You may not like it. That's what I always say. You may not like it. My feelings may get hurt.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Let me deal with I would much rather deal with repairing my hurt feelings than the unknowing of something that I ought to know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'd rather have a hard yes than a soft no.
I say that all the time. Give me a hard yes over a soft no all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the home ownership, let's get into that a little bit. And you said that you're pretty much in the triangle area. Um, First time home buyers. What are we looking for?
Oh, first time home buyers right now should not be afraid of the interest rates. I know that there's a lot of conversation around what's happening, but first time home buyers I think right now should just not worry about the interest rates because these interest rates are not crazy out of control. They're not unheard of. They're higher than we've experienced in the past, 5 years maybe, but definitely not, off the Richter scale. So I think that's the number one thing is get past the interest rates because you can always refinance. There's so many different options, but I think first time home buyers also should be thinking about creative options when it comes to buying. So if you've never owned a home before, how about owning a duplex and living on one side of it? Um, there's just so many options when it comes to investing in your future, and that's what buying a home is. It's creating your own little bank account and investing in you. We get taught different things about 401ks and the stock market and a lot of different ways to invest in yourself. But real estate, for some reason, people are really afraid of it. They'll sign up for their mutual fund 401k at work with no questions asked. They fill out that little Vanguard paperwork with no questions asked. But when it comes to purchasing a home, people get really, really nervous. So I would say to a first time home buyer, first you need to establish a relationship with a realtor and stop going at it yourself. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody. I know that we have so many fears when it comes to our finances and talking about our personal things and our goals. But just pick up the phone because realtors are so used to hearing all the stories and vet whoever you're going to work with. Do your due diligence. Don't just work with your cousin or your best friend's daughter or your whatever, just because somebody has a license. Don't do that. Make sure that whoever you're working with has some experience. And I don't mean just like a couple of deals. It's just like whatever job you do. Do you want somebody working on your car where this is their first or second time doing it? Or do you want somebody working on your car where they can really troubleshoot this thing and really find out what's going on? It's great to give people an opportunity. I love helping new agents. I love working with people who are new, but for first-time home buyers, they're new. So first-time home buyers really need to work with somebody who can nurture them through the process. Now, if you have bought and sold a home, then by all means, give somebody a chance that could use that chance. But definitely vet who you're working with. And then I would say finally, start saving your money. It's kind of a weird thing. Like when people get ready to buy a home, they really don't know how much money they're going to need. And they definitely feel like they can just pick up the phone and call a realtor and it's not going to cost a thing. Well, that's kind of true. It's not going to cost anything, but you do need to have some money prepared to go into this thing. So, people, I think we've lost sense of saving. Like, how do we save? How do we put aside that money? I would say really just go and talk to a financial counselor, or look at all the ways in which you are spending money that you don't need to. Maybe it's Starbucks. Maybe you eat out just one less time per week. Whatever that is for you that you're indulging in area. Maybe you have a shopping habit that you need to curtail. Or, maybe you just buy way too much beer during the week. Whatever it is that you're overindulging in, but you have a desire to do this, I would say work on that because those habits are going to come back once you're a homeowner. And you need to get that in check because you have to take care of your home. Even new homes need maintenance. But yeah, so that's what I would say to first time home buyers.
And thanks, you got that out there. If you don't, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, please put your comments in the comments or any questions that you have for myself and Monica, and we'll get to them. What's good, Danny? Danny said, okay, so owned home while I was raising a family. Now it's just me and my wife, and I don't want to worry about maintenance at all. And a 30-year mortgage at 58 makes no sense to me. I guess that was more of a statement than a question.
I
Um,
get that. Yeah.
so
I mean, there's all sorts of creative financing. So you can get a 15-year mortgage. It doesn't have to be a 30-year mortgage. Your mortgage will be a little bit higher, but you can absolutely get that thing cut in half. Um, and since you were raising a family early on, I would say, well, what is your financial goal when you leave here? Do you want to leave your children, a home to inherit? Do you not want to leave them debt? I mean, because not everybody wants to do that. Do you not want to leave them debt? Have you talked to somebody about maybe putting it all in a trust so that it doesn't have to go through probate? But I get the concept of like, hey, been there, done there, got the T-shirt. Now I'm ready to just not cut grass because that's literally me. Like I don't want to cut grass anymore. And I tease my friends, and I'm like, listen, I just want a little trash chute. I don't want to even walk the trash cans out. I just want to put the trash in the trash chute. But I get that. I also want to leave my family a legacy. So if that's what your goal is to leave something for your family, then you definitely need to talk about like, is home ownership still a thing? And you also have to think about your own goals. What do you want retirement to look like? If you haven't prepared for what 65 or 75 looks like, then getting into a mortgage where you have a controlled payment for your housing situation, that may be what you want. It may be what you want because what will be the cost of your long-term care when you get to that age? And will you be able to use that house, sell it so that you have long-term care? That may be part of your care. Maybe you don't want to have to not spend your retirement. Maybe you want to spend your retirement traveling. So this house that you're purchasing is basically being put aside as an investment piece for your long-term care when you get older. And I mean, it could be any number of things. We're just talking about a couple of scenarios, but I think that when people put a period behind why they want to do something, it should really be a comma or a question mark, and talk it through. Let's find out where you're headed, what you want to do, and let's see if that makes sense. I think you and I were speaking earlier off camera about the possibility of, should you rent right now, or should you buy, or what should you do? And it's not always a good idea to buy. Sometimes it is a good idea to lease for a little while so that you can get yourself together, or maybe you have very, very short-term goals. I used to tell people, especially in the last like 5 to 10 years, I've always said, hey, buy it, keep it for a couple of years, sell it, you've made $10,000. I wouldn't necessarily say that today, because you may buy it and you may keep it for 3 years and it may still be worth the same thing that you bought it for and you haven't made any money. It may be even worth a little bit less. But purchasing a home is really not for the short term gratification. When you buy a home or you're investing in real estate, you're looking at like the long term thing. Dr. Boyce was on a call that I was on earlier today, and he said it's like planting an apple tree. You never plant an apple tree hoping to get the apples tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You plant an apple tree knowing that it's going to take a long time for that apple tree to grow, and you'll get the apples eventually. And and how you take care of that apple tree and all that other stuff. So think of that the same way. Think of home ownership the same way.
That makes sense. And it's like, I was thinking about, well, maybe think about that what you were talking about earlier. When I said, is depending on your situation, is downsides, does it make sense? You worked all your life to actually own a home and you're happy that you did, but does it still make sense, like Danny said, at 58, at 65 versus 70? You know what I mean? It's like I was listening to Fat Joe talk about, when he first made it, that's every athlete entertained the first thing. I got to get mom out the hood. I got to get out the PJs and buy this home. And he went and bought his mother this big old mansion. But it's like, his mother like, Joey, what am I going to do with all of this? It's just me. Right. Like, I'm scared to be in this house alone. You know what I mean? It's different when you got entourage and all the cousins and this way. You know what I mean? I don't really need all of this. You know what I mean? Just because I appreciate that you would be willing to do this for me. Oh, and then it was Mike Epps. Mike Evans was talking about it. He said his mother told him, "You ain't buying me no house. You ain't messing up my Social Security."
Right,
You
right.
know, everybody has a different mindset. There's no such thing as right or wrong in these type of situations. It's just what's best for you. You know, like you said, you might have been raising three or four children together. Now the kids are grown, on their way to college, got their own homes, whatever. So does it still make sense for me to be in this home, or you know what I mean? So it just really depends on how you look at it.
I think
Um,
downsizing is a really brilliant thing to think about because um, a lot of people don't think about it until it's too late. Like it's actually like they have to downsize because they can no longer do whatever. But I think we should be thinking about the concept of downsizing because it is a lot of house to clean. It is a lot of house to take care of. It is a lot of maintenance that you probably don't need. I think, always have a little guest room so that somebody could come and sleep comfortably. Maybe
mhm.
you don't want to downsize all the way to a one bedroom or studio, or maybe you do. But I think that downsizing is definitely something that you could really enjoy, especially if you've owned a home before and then you sell that home and you can use the proceeds of that home to pay down the home you're going into so
Mhm.
that your payment really is very comparable, and you don't have to worry about rent going up and that sort of thing. So for aging people, I do like the idea of having a controlled payment that they have. Now, if they've paid off their house, I would say if you can't purchase where you're going with the sale, with the proceeds of the house that you're currently in, then maybe you need to stay put
Mhm.
and just worry about the taxes. But if the maintenance of the house, that's what always happens as people get older and the maintenance is just too great. They've lived in the house for 30 years. The house is also 30, or maybe
Mhm.
the house is 50. And what do we know about 50? Bad knees and aches and pains. So if the house is almost as old as you are, then yeah, downsizing is probably a good idea just for the sake of not having to worry about changing a hot water heater. I really think people should give more respect to living in a townhome or condo or even a senior community. Senior communities have wonderful they're townhomes, but they're ranch style townhomes usually. And they're very nice. They have activities and all sorts of stuff. And if you don't like to deal with all the people around you, you can live your own life. So there's just so many options. I think when a person is considering what they need to do as they start to age out of wanting to live in a bigger home is they just need to sit down with someone, a real estate agent, a financial consultant, and talk about their longer term goals.
Yeah, and to your point, hold up. Danny said, "Hey, what's good, Jew?" Danny said, "Farmland today makes more sense for me. For someone like me, I don't have to maintain anything, pay lower taxes, and eventually some developers want to buy it." Um, yeah, but you still got if you depending on your land, you still got to upkeep that grass, bruh. You know, you got to
Yeah,
get you know, it's gonna be some level of upkeep when it's stuff like that. But
I
like you
have
were saying about huh?
I
Good.
have a client who had farmland here in North Carolina. I won't say
Mm,
where because it might it just might trigger way too
yeah,
much
yeah.
specificity. But anyways, he purchased this land with the concept that his kids were going to want to build houses on it and blah 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 blah. Anyways, they didn't. Of course, the kids never
Plot
want.
twist. Exactly.
They never want what we want. But anyways, he turned it into farmland, so he had a tax break there. But there were restrictions, and so he did live on it a little bit, and he even built like a septic tank onto the land so that he could hook up his RV to the property. And he enjoyed it very much. But again, like you said, the land became too much for him to care for because he had to stay on top of the growth. And even though he never turned it into an actual working farm, it was just a lot of work with the land. And he thought a developer was going to come along, but not in the time frame that for him. Maybe eventually, maybe for his kids, but not in the time frame that he had. So we ended up selling the property, and it was a bittersweet thing for him because the vision he had was, and I
Mhm.
admire that. But That's why you got to sit down and talk to people. Talk to someone who knows the market so that your plan can actually be one that you can manifest.
And it also helps when you actually know people. You know what I mean? Especially when you in terms of your children versus your parents or your whatever whoever you're going into this transaction with. Because think about it, it's like I remember growing up, my dad he used to drive buses and he always wanted his own trucking company and all that type of stuff there. But the problem is, like, we might not, me and my brothers, and it's funny, none of me and my two brothers are drivers, but all his nephews at some point was truck drivers. They love that cross country and all. I'm not built for that life. Like, that's too long to be sitting behind the wheel for me. Especially the older that I get. I don't want. I know that's not my burden. But it's like you said. What about when you say, you know what, I want to have a family business, and your oldest child say, you know what, I don't care about that family business. Look, how much y'all want for it? How much you gonna give me for it? So it's like, again, we got to be careful and considerate of our own expectations, so to speak.
Right.
When we expecting somebody else, of course, we will want to have land for the grandkids and somebody be able to always come here. But just because that's what we envision doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to play out.
My daughter, she's 35, she's wonderful, beautiful, smart, everything. She has done a lot of the same type of work I've done. She even got a real estate license and has worked in property management and all of the same things that I've done. I don't think she has one small iota of a desire to run this business. She helps me with it. She works the background a little bit, but I think too because she knows it so well, because she's seen what I have had to endure. Like you said, your dad drove, was in the car all the time, in the truck all the time. You knew that. You knew that was the life you did want. I think you have to have a little bit of ignorance to go into some of these professions. You have to have a little bit of like ignorance is bliss, and then you go into it. Maybe you love it like your dad did and like I do, and it makes us keep going because we really enjoy it and we've invested so much into it. But for the people who are watching us, they're like, oh heck no, I'm not, that's not my life. And I think that's what my daughter has said. She's chosen a much less chaotic existence, because real estate is it's a beautiful profession. I love it very much, but it's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of chaos. And so if you're not up for the chaos, this is not for you. So I feel like I want to leave the company to the kids. And my son, who knows, he may take it over a little bit, but and she may take it over. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen at that point? But for the most part, I'm living as if this is my dream. They can have it. If they don't want it, so be it.
Danny said, I know a few people who planted trees for the state, and after 20 years, the state purchased the trees. I think businesses have to make sense of the ones who has the vision and expect the children to sell it as soon as you pass. And that's a good way to look at it, Danny, because like you said, you just never know. But we should always be thinking about these things, our dreams, our vision, as worst case scenario. You know what I mean? Because like you said, they might have a totally different vision for it, and it's like you can't have them. You know what? This I sacrifice and all that. I always jokingly say, for people that fans of Martin Luther King, like, do you really think that if Martin Luther King could see the world today, you think he would have still made the same sacrifices that he made back then?
I do. Marvin, I do. You know why? Because I think when you are passionate, when you are called to something, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You're going to do it anyways.
That's true. That's true. I would have. It's like my cartoon Boondocks. Shout out to Boondocks. They said an episode, like, McDonald's got a McRib now. Can you all these different things? But it's like you see all the senseless violence and all the rap music that they and it's just a whole lot. I'm not saying that he would choose different. I'm just saying it's a good hypothetical that I asked myself. Danny also said, I have a Jewish friend, and they told me their parents didn't have much to give in life, but they maintained life insurance policies on parents, so the parents helped in death. Yeah, and that's always a good thing. We did a show a couple of years ago, and I got to get my man Steve back on. Just talking about the importance of having life insurance, and for a lot of people that live check to check or not, you might not be as well off as you want to possibly be, and you are a parent. That is one way, that you can do more, more for your child in depth, so to speak, than you could financially speaking. Of course, nothing is going to, replace, those conversations and things like that there. Um, but it's always good to be able to leave your children something, and whether they blow it, that's on them.
I have a lot of clients that are the kids of, because
Hmm.
none of the kids want whatever the parents had, right? They don't
Hmm.
even live in the same states. A lot of times my clients are somewhere else and they're like, well, my dad had this house over here, so, but I want to take the pressure off of people, because I think we have so much noise that we hear about do this, do this, do that. And some of us try to do all the things. We want the insurance, we want the house, we want the stocks, we want all of this stuff. We want to, but the truth of the matter is just do something.
Hmm.
Do something that will prepare you for your days of you don't know what your elderly days are going to look like, if you're going to be able to take care of yourself, if you're going to have a caretaker there, if your children are going to have the capacity to do it. If you're
Hmm.
hoping that your kids have the capacity to take care of you, that may be a conversation you need to have, because some kids love their parents but like are not good caretakers, so um I think you just have to do something and kind of think about what it is that you can do, and do that, and take the pressure off of yourself about, well, I need to do this, I need to do that. Just do something. And for the most, and one thing I want to tell people is enjoy the life that you have right now. I mean, I know I work so much, I don't get to enjoy it all the time, but when I have less on my plate, I try to live to the fullest. I make sure I travel. I make sure I spend time with my grandkids. I do the things that create memories. So more than anything, enjoy this time that you have, because we're always preparing for tomorrow, and we don't even know what tomorrow. What does the Bible say about, like, tomorrow has enough problems of its own? Stay focused on today.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and what Danny just said too. Just do something is the best advice in my opinion, and
Yeah.
that's the point. We only have one life to live. None of us are going. None of us are Benjamin Button. None of us are aging backwards. We're not getting any
Oh,
younger.
sorry,
So
baby.
why not enjoy ourselves while we can?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, my little co-star here.
And I think is important to know what's best for you, because even though we're talking about home ownership, if you're single and have no children, you might not ever want a home. It sounded good in theory. You know, I had this conversation with my son over the weekend, and it's a conversation that I like to have often, because I'm not trying to challenge anybody's faith, right? But I think everything should be. It should come some point in our it should come some point in time in our lives, especially as adults, where we begin to ask ourselves, why is it that I believe what I believe? Is this something that was instilled in me as a child, that going to church on Sunday is what's best for me? Do I really believe in Jesus Christ? Do I really believe in God? Or is that just something that was instilled in me? Because anything that's learned can also be unlearned. So we got to ask ourselves at the end of the day, why do we believe what it is that we believe?
Marvin, I don't know if you've seen the buzz that's going around TikTok right now, but it's Jasmine versus 20 or something like that. It's she's a what they classify. She doesn't call herself a new age believer, but they classify her as like a new age believer.
Mm,
And the audience, the other people, it's like 20 Christian women, and they have a they go one on one with one another, or actually it's her against like five at a time, and they ask different questions. And it's a beautiful conversation. If you can pick it up on TikTok, it's also on YouTube. It's Jasmine versus 20 or something like that, or one new age believer versus the Christians. And it's a beautiful conversation. I think everyone should participate in it. No matter what you believe, I think you should watch it,
mhm,
because it challenges the things that we've just been told, versus what you know to be true, what you actually believe as a human being, and what your experience has been. So I think that a lot of times, especially Black people, we're so saved and sanctified. You know, we're so fire and brimstone, and we don't allow ourselves to even be challenged, because anything outside of that is, you know, the devil. And we have enough problems in this world. We don't want to get on God's bad side. You know, we just want to stay in God's good graces and stay saved and sanctified. And I understand that, but I also really do subscribe to like another way of thinking that's like, can what if what if
Yeah.
what if God didn't actually mean that? I'm not even saying that what if there's no God. I'm saying what if God had a different intention. And so some of the questions that were raised in that video, man, catch it if you can, if you haven't seen it. It's really, really good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. Well, I think you sent it to me earlier. I didn't get a chance to watch it in its totality, but I know she at the part that I did see was her talking about, you know, crystals, whether or not, you know, they have healing properties and whatnot. I said I want to get into it as you know, when I really had the time to really engulf in it. But I was literally having a conversation earlier today, and I think this is for Christians out there. I really think, and I'm just feel led to interject this. It's like so many times we talk about not judging, not judging. You know, we don't judge. You know, we just pray and whatever. Um, Again, the conversation I was having over the weekend, in Christianity, correction is not judgment. But you might feel that somebody's judging you because you're offended and you're guilty. If you know what I mean, like my brother, he used the example. If you talking about 2 + 2 is 5, and I correct you, that's correction. That's not judgment. You're wrong. You see what I'm saying? So, and the other aspect that I was bringing up that I talked about this morning is one thing we have to remember is, like you mentioned a little while ago, everything is predicated upon our own experiences, right? But what I've come to know in my walk with God is I can't measure your relationship with God based off of my relationship with God, because we're two different individuals, for one, and two, what God convicts me of, it might not be a conviction for you. So I can't be walking around, well, why she get to do this and don't do all that there? Like, if God convicted me about it, that's between me and him, and I got to deal with it accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Not be so envious of judgment. Why they get to do this and why they get to do it, and I can't do this here. Because again, to your point, when you talking about Martin Luther King, when we're truly walking in our purpose and in our calling of God, everything is going to line up accordingly. But you can't go where I could go, and vice versa. I can't go where you could go. But if we stay on his path and let it hit by his direction, not our own GPS, but his direction, we're going to get to where we eventually should be. You know, so stop worrying about why you taking 85 when you could have just took 95 to 40. If that's the way you want to go, that's the way you go. But I'm going this route. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do really think that people should focus more on having an individual relationship with their belief, whatever that is, because if you tonight is not the night for the church conversation. I'll come back if you want to have me for that. But I just think that when you subscribe to your own journey, you do it honestly, there will be a lot of questions that God will allow in my life, in my experience. I'll speak from my experience. There will be a lot of questions that God allows me to have. So God and I have this little thing every year where he gives me a question or for a word that he wants me to focus on. And we talk about it a little bit, and I can't even tell you how this conversation takes place, because it's just something that I have noticed that God and I have done for, I don't know, the last maybe 10, 15 years or so. I'm getting chills thinking about it. But anyways, um, one of the years, of course, was patience. And you know what that is. You know, God was giving me all these opportunities to deal with patience and understand patience and all this stuff. I've had years where my word was wisdom. I've had years where my word was abundance.
Mm.
I've had years where my word was love. I've had years just I think I'm in one right now that I wasn't. I know what this year is. This year has been grief, like dealing with grief, how to deal, just understanding the complexities of grief and what that looks like and how to grow in that. Grief is actually the other side of love, or kind of like it's a portion of love that we don't get to visit when grief is not, you know,
Yeah.
at the forefront. And then when grief comes to, you know, to pass, then we have to spend time looking at that and unpacking that. And it's just another form of love. And anyways, I'm thankful for that individual relationship that I have with God, that He allows me, He, she, whatever you choose to call it, to call God, but that I'm allowed to go through that path with God, independent of judgment, independent of anything. And yeah, you mentioned the word correction. I don't think there really is any correction when you are truly walking with God. The mistakes that you make, God uses for your lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no matter how egregious it may be, and I say that carefully because I know everybody goes straight to murder, like, but you can kill someone, you know, no. But no, don't kill anybody. But I'm just saying that, like, whatever your walk is, appreciate the good and the bad, and whatever questions that you may be having about a thing at the time, if you have a truly intimate relationship with God, those questions and those opportunities to answer those questions just come up. And of course, read your Bible or do whatever, you know, prayer, meditate, crystals, whatever you do to get closer to God in that moment. But I just truly believe that it's an opportunity to experience this life the way God wants us to experience it. Like you said, He may want you to be on 85 instead of 95. You know, so 95 may look like a walk in the park, but 85 over here is, you know, got hurdles and grief and all kinds of stuff. So I happen to be on Highway 85, and those that are on 95 or 40 or whatever, that's great. But um, you know, I just think that we all have a different journey, and it should be respected.
Yeah.
Should really be respected.
And the most important aspect of that is to understand that whatever your word or whatever your season is, whatever your 85 is, not just you, Monica, but like in general, you're not going through it alone. As much as it may feel like you're never truly alone. Our higher power, our God Almighty, the Almighty Creator is always with us. It's just a matter of, like you said, getting to a place where we could it's like one of my, don't judge me, you know, as a kid growing up though. That's one of the things that I always used to love about The Last Dragon. And that line always stuck out with me. Knowing without knowing. You know, and at the end of the day, that's what faith is.
It is.
You know, how can you know to catch the right arrow? You're gonna break all these here. You don't know what color this one is, but you're supposed to catch this one. And then when you get to that point of knowing without knowing, you arrive. So it's a process, like you said, you know. I just want somebody to understand that you're not going through it alone. And while we're talking about it, please keep one of our viewers, everybody out there, one of our fellow viewers in our community, Miss Rosa Stone, in our prayers. She lost her dad last week, so let's keep her lifted up in our prayers as well. You already know I'm gonna be checking on you later on throughout the week, just to make sure everything is okay. Danny said years ago I purchased a couple of Rolex watches for the express purpose of leaving them to my sons. My daughters will receive more from life insurance. Yeah, and that's the point. What's the point there, Danny? You know that you have something set up, because we definitely want to leave something, um, even for people that don't have children. It's always good to have a plan. You know, Don't let that money go to the government. You got some nieces, some nephews, some co-work or whoever, somebody in your life that you could be a blessing to. So it just, I think that is very in at some point in time, and we didn't always get it. I remember like when working in my 20s when I was in the airline industry, it's like well, benefits, health insurance. Oh, I'm good. I don't need all that. Like, I ain't going to the doctor. Well, I'm gonna be paying all this money per butt, and I don't even never go to the doctor anyway. I never get sick. But the older you get, you got that plan needs to change. So I think that not sounding morbid, but the older that we get, we really need to make plans for what is life gonna look like for the ones that say they love me um after I'm gone. You know what I mean? Don't want to be a burden. I'm saying so. It's crazy to me how many people, and this is not no judgment, but it's crazy to me how many people, for the last 6, 7 years, especially since COVID done came in, um, is like y'all need to get life insurance and this here and that there because nobody want to have a GoFundMe. And I'm saying some of these same people that was preaching that sending out GoFundMes. You know what I mean? So practice what you preach. It sounds good in theory, but what's the old saying? It's never any fun when the rabbit got the gun. You know what I mean? So let's prepare ourselves for that. So I want to transition before we get out of here, though. We talked about relationships, and we were talking about dating after 40, dating after 50. What does that look like? Um, And you asked something that's good. So I want you guys to really that's out there viewing. I want you guys to partake of this too. But dating after 40, 50, what does dating look like? What does dating entail? What will be a dream date for Monica?
Oh, for Monica. Oh gosh. I'm such a weirdo, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. A dream date for me would be great conversation, no pauses, a lot of laughter, just really just silly laughter. Um, Anything that involves water would be perfection because I'm a water girl. So like beach, lake, pond, waterfall, anything. Um, but I think a really great date would just be one that feels so like just kismet. It just feels like, hey, I've met my person. This is cool. I've had some good dates with people that I is not that are not my people. We have a
Mm-hmm.
good time. We have a fun time. So that's cool. It's possible. I think that a good date though is one that's kind of planned out. It doesn't have to necessarily be really expensive, but it could definitely be well planned out. A hike for me, outdoors, anything outdoors, a hike. I don't want to go to a movie necessarily because we can't talk. Dinner's great. Of course, a girl's got to eat, but who cares? I think just a good time. If a good time is had, where we're really talking, we're really having a good time, really enjoying one another, that's a good time. That's a good date.
Mm-hmm. I like those answers. Um, for me, um, typically, you mentioned you hit the nail on the head. For me, first dates are like first impressions. Um they're not always tell all, but they're lasting. I always raising my sons. I used to always tell them, and it's very superficial. So don't judge me. I'm just being honest. But when it comes to the girls, always remember what you thought of that person before you knew them, like the very first time you seen them. Because if they were ugly to you then, they're still going to be ugly. Now, what I'm saying is, people say beauty is in the behold. I get all of that there, right? But this is what I mean. They might be. We don't want to use the word uh, ugly. Let's say beauty challenged for you. for your taste or your specifications. Once you get to know that person, they might be the sweetest person in it. So after 5 or 10 years of knowing this person and y'all have developed an actual relationship, they might not be as beauty challenged because you got to know the real them. Whereas to the eye, they might have been the most beautiful girl in the world, but the personality and the characteristics of this person, you know what I mean? So you got to be mindful of that. There. So I always try to tell them if they were beauty challenged in the beginning, there's nothing wrong with falling in love with somebody that's beauty challenged. But just remember, that's what you initially thought.
So as a man, men are very visual. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think that do you think that that's something that you could, as a man, do you think men can overcome that challenge? If the visual, is not being excited, then is that something that men can overcome? Because that's
Generally
not
speaking, yes. For me, no. Like, like I'm just being
really
honest,
for them, but
Yeah,
not for
yeah.
me.
We could be friends.
Oh,
And I said I wanted to talk about that with you could put it out there if you want. I said one of these days in the future when we do it, so I want to hit on that. Like, but my question is like, women, they love putting a dude in the friend zone. What would be our version of the friend zone, like for men? You know what I mean? Like what do we even call that? I need a word to come up with that because like you say, there's some women that I know I meet, oh, you cool like that, but I don't see you like that. So we can never be more than just friends. You know what I mean? And usually know that right away.
the thing is, chemistry can't be ordered. That's the beauty of chemistry. You can't purchase it. Chemistry cannot be ordered up. You either
Either you
have
have
it
it or
or
you
you
don't.
don't.
Yeah.
No, you either have it or you don't. And I think that that's okay. Now, having somebody who is like a soulmate twin flame type energy that you really vibe with and they're your person, um that could be, and they end up falling into the friend zone because that's what you are. I think the challenge for women and for men is understanding when the friend zone should happen and not falling into a romantic situationship just because, you know, I vibe with this person on that level. Is the chemistry really there? That's
Mm-hmm.
something to really kind of be
Well,
mindful.
well, Danny said, yeah, women said Biggie was ugly until he became rich and successful. And that's the other thing. So you got it works both ways. You got to know sometimes people not attracted to you is about what you can do for them. You got to be real mindful of that as well. That's a reality. Some people are users, unfortunately. Um, but again, for me, I'm like you. I don't like the movies will never be a first date if it's up to me. Um, because I want to be able to talk. I want to be able to try to get to know you on some kind of level. How good see where your head at. What kind of sense of humor do you have? All those different things. You can't do that while the music playing. You can't do that in the club. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather have like a more intimate setting. Let's meet and walk at the park, or let's have a picnic, or something of that nature there, just to kind of get to know each other. We could do all that stuff eventually, because I love the bowl. I love the movies. I mean, I'm a movie fanatic.
Mhm.
But let's get there.
Let's get
I don't
there.
want that to be the first date.
Right. Date 4.
So
We'll go
and,
to.
and so let me ask you this: what would you say is the number one necessity in a man for you to be interested in?
Oh boy, that's a big question. Um, it's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one thing. I wish I could reduce it to one thing, but it's not. I used to have this list that I keep, and it was in my early 30s and late 20s. And I'll tell you, in the top 3, he had to read the newspaper. If he didn't read the newspaper, I wasn't attracted to him. And I guess that's because, my stepdad used to read the newspaper, and he would tell me all the time. He's like, you can find out everything you need to know about what's going on in the world on the front page. So fast forward to 2026, what does that look like? I think just somebody who is well informed, somebody who is very interested in current affairs. So I'm sort of a sapio sapien, I guess that's the word. I really like that. I have to laugh. I can if you don't make if you don't give me like belly laughs, just like roll over on the floor laugh, I'm not going to be your speed, because I'm silly. I'm like super silly. Life has enough going on where I have to be serious. And so I try to find the humor in a lot. It's not just one thing. I think somebody who is patient, they have to be with my line of work. I'm a busy person. And so anybody who I get involved with has to be very, very patient. And they have to have like their own interests also. Like, don't just be, waiting for me to get off work at 5 o'clock. I will probably take the block twice just to not make it home at 5 o'clock. That's I'll be like, no, let me go spin the block one more time. No, don't wait for me. Have something going on yourself so that we can have more to talk about. That just gives us more, more for the conversation. I think that someone who has an adventurous spirit, who has a sense of adventure, is very important also, because as we get to these older ages, a little bit grander, you want to take adventures and do things and explore stuff. So I think that is really important to me as well. So I can't say it's just one thing, but and then there's also that little za that you have to have, that chemistry that you got to have with somebody. That is very important also, because you could have all that other stuff, and without the za, it just falls flat. Then you're in the friend zone. So.
All right. Daddy said, when I was single, black women paid me no attention until they saw the car I drive. Huge turnoff. Yeah. That's why I've never been that type of dude. No, I'm not talking about you, Danny. I'm just talking about in general. When my man, shout out to Big Five, when Wayne was on the show, he talked about that. He's like, yeah, Mar, that's one thing I always respected about you. You was always you. You dress how you dress. You drive. I'm like, yo, what you trying to say? I don't know how to dress like. But what he was saying was, ever since he's known me, I've been unapologetically me. I don't care about what's the status quo, what society. I don't measure my standards by that there. Well, I got to get me some red bottom shoes to look fly. I'm going to look fly in whatever I put on. That's what, that's just always been my mindset. I'm not going out here. I'm not putting myself in a position to go out here and get a BMW. And then I got a question, why are you with me? When I'm driving my car, I know that you're with me because of me, not my car. You know what I mean? Those different type things there. So I've never really subscribed to that. I don't care about that type of stuff. And I know people do, but to me,
some people do. But I think if a person is confident, confidence goes such a long way. It goes such a long way. And, you have to think about too, if I have no idea what it means to be a man. So like, I try not to even really speak for men, but I do believe that the men that get caught up in those types of situations where women are just looking for the material things, I want to ask that man, what type of woman is he attracted to? Because he's probably attracted to women that are materialistic. And the materialistic women may not always go for that guy, but that's something that I believe that men they kind of have to check themselves on also and find out like what are they attracted to. And most women that I speak to are not necessarily chasing a man's car or what kind of clothes he wears. Although I do know one particular friend of mine, she said that, I asked her what she liked about her partner, and she said, because he had swag. So, but that
Mm-hmm.
swag, whatever it was attractive to her. I don't know if they were necessarily red bottoms or whatever, but whatever
Mm-hmm.
it was attractive to her. So, I mean, there's that whole pheromone thing that we can smell someone, and it's just somebody likes Versace and somebody likes Creed, or whatever your thing is. It depends on what attracts you to a person. Here's what I always say, hands down: just be you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be me 100% of the time. You're gonna get this chick right here all the time, because my village will be attracted to me. I can't be anything else. I can't be anybody else. And so as long as I'm me, then those that are like me will be attracted to me. Now
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the worst parts of me are attracted to me, but there's something in me that attracts that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to check what it is in me that why is that the magnet that keeps coming to me, so
Mm-hmm.
um but
You mentioned something earlier that I was curious about, like, oh, just your advice or your opinion on it. But let's say you said confidence. Confidence is unmeasurable.
unmeasurable.
Let's say you are a confident person, or you were a confident person, but you lost your confidence for whatever reasons. How do you find confidence again?
I think by spending time with yourself. So as a woman of a particular age, there's all sorts of things that I had going on that aren't always going on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have I've always been told that I have really nice legs. Well, I used to run track when I was 16. I don't run track anymore. So I think to get my confidence back, I just have to I have to spend time working out and going to the gym and spending time doing the things that to build me up. And that's something I really struggle with, because I put the gym like way down on my priority list. But I'm trying to get to that point where I'm walking again and exercising again and doing my weights. Got my little weights right here on my desk so I can remember to do my weights.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to do the things that keep your yourself lifted up. I think sleeping and eating properly is really important. When you care about what you put in your body, when you care how you about yourself, then that shows. I think people will sense that. Garbage in, garbage out. So I've got a real bad candy habit, but I mean, chalk that up as being like my liquor habit, because I love some candy. I will eat candy all day long, but that's my vice. Every other time, you're going to catch me probably eating like, I have like almost an immaculate diet. I'm making my own yogurt, making my own breads, cooking, doing all these things, and eating a very vegetable heavy diet. Um, I like the way it makes me feel. I like the way I just like cooking. So I think to get your confidence up, you have to spend time with yourself. And that means, doing the things that you enjoy no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You should always find something within yourself that brings you joy, absent of another person. So, like, COVID was really cool because we couldn't socialize. I like you called it Coco. That was really cool. Coco was kind of cool because you couldn't be around other people. You had to spend time with yourself and whoever was in your household at the time. And I think that we got to know the things, our hobbies, and the things that we were really interested in. Spend time. I loved DJ Nice. Was it? He was playing music in the background. Like we got to start listening to the DJ again, and the music.
Be nice.
D Nice. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And it was cool to kind of tap into that part of ourselves again. So I think that in order to build your confidence up, you have to spend time with yourself, getting to know what you like and what makes you happy, because you could possibly be in a situation one day where you don't have somebody to build you up.
Mm-hmm.
And what will you do then?
Yeah, that's a truly valid point. And shout out to Monica. I did not know Monica was a part of Club Quarantine. I used to tell everybody that I know. I literally heard the first one that he did,
Yeah.
and I was like so hooked. It was crazy. I commented on one of them, and he actually responded.
Ah,
Because I let him know how much Club Quarantine meant to me. That
yes,
it actually inspired me to start this show. So
yes,
that's part of the deception of the Marvin Bennett Jr. show because
I love
D
that.
Nice was like, yo, listen, I'm going live and just play music for people. We can't see each other, but we could come together. And I was like, you know what? That's a cool idea. And just see all these different people in here every single night and reading the comments and just growing that whole community. And he actually doing live shows now of
Yes,
Club Quarantine
yes,
doing there.
I
I
love
haven't been able to attend one yet, but I definitely want to get the one,
I
just
love
because
it.
I was with him since day one. Absolutely love that though that you mentioned that.
Shout out to the day oneers because
Yeah.
that was how we made it through. You know,
Uh-huh.
I want to say too that it's kind of everybody should have seen Forrest Gump, so I hope it's not a spoiler.
Mm.
But when Forrest started running, Forrest started doing that for himself. He
Yeah.
didn't ask anybody. He just put
Mm-hmm.
on those tennis shoes and just ran. Next thing you know, he has a whole trail of people running
Mm-hmm.
behind him. So I do believe that if you just run your race, your people will find you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Danny said I'm a commercial and industrial roofing estimator and I make a great living. But all they saw was jeans and boots. Women say they want six-figure men, and that was me that they were checking for until they saw my car.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
And you gonna men and women, you gonna have some superficial people out there. Um, and I kind of wanted to say that because everybody has their preference. I remember my girl Tanya got up here. My sister, shout out to my sister. She was in the comments, and I'm like, I just host the show. You know what I mean? It's not. And she was saying, well, Marvin, he don't date big girls and he don't date dark skinned women. I'm like, yo, don't put that out there for the world because now people are judging me. And I'm not saying that it's not accurate, but at the same time, it's like it's like this. What I mean is I have a preference, but just because you're not my preference doesn't mean it doesn't exclude you from an opportunity either. You know,
Right.
especially at this age in life, I'm divorced. Uh so maybe what I was attracted to, maybe I might be missing my blessing because I was looking in all the wrong places or looking for the wrong thing, so to speak. You know what I mean? Or as we grow, things change. So what I might have not found attractive before, I might find attractive now. You know what I mean?
The
So
last
it's just different qualities.
the last person I dated was not in my would not have been someone that I would have uh,
Typically, yeah.
typically dated. And so I'm a short girl. You know, short girls like little height, typically
How tall are you?
5'3".
Wow, I don't know why I envisioned you
Do
like
I
being 5'7", 5'8". Yeah.
stand, do I stand taller? Yeah, I'm 5'3". So you know, 5'3". We usually like a little height on us. So for our partners, but the last person who I dated wasn't a very tall person, and but we had like an intellectual connection, you know, and so that was kind of cool as for as long as it was cool. And then
Mhm.
um, you know, there's been people that I've dated. When the commenter Danny speaks about the cars, um, I've never really judged so per se the car, although I have gone on a date. One date. I'm the one date queen. That's one thing I say. I probably need to talk to somebody. I probably need therapy for it. I'm the one date queen. I will go out with somebody for one date and then never see them again, ever. Uh, we'll save that for another day. But anyways, I went out with a guy one time, and I guess he was trying to impress me, and he picked me up, and I don't know where he got this car. It was I hate to even say what kind of car it was, but anyways, it was a nice car. I'll say that. And it, when he went to like open the door for me, like the door fell off, like
Oh, a
all
nice car.
up. just off. The car was just, the door was done, and he was picking up the door. He was like, "I'm so sorry." Da, da, da. I don't know if he got it from the pick apart. I don't know if he got this car from the scrap yard and cleaned it up. I don't know, but he could have very well pulled up in a, I don't want to date myself, but back what, a Yugo or whatever those cars were back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
He could have pulled up in a Kia, and as long as the door would have worked, it would have been fine. Then let's see, another one dater I went on. Like the ceiling, the car was just like falling, all of the stuff was falling down. So I would say like a raggedy car is really a problem. A car that's in good condition is fine, no matter what it is, because I think that most women of substance can value someone who drives a car that is of value. So if you're driving an electric car or a car that's smart on gas, or an intelligent purchase that you might have, we don't know if you've got 3 other cars parked in your driveway. We have no idea. You could have a motorcycle and a truck and all this other stuff parked in your driveway, but whatever car it is that and I've heard men say that they'll pick their dates up in their beater to see how they act. All I'm saying is, make sure your beater is in good condition. Like, make it safe, clean, so that so when the door is not falling off and the ceiling is not falling in our hair, we don't care about the beater. We just want it to be safe.
You mentioned track earlier. What did you run in when you was a track star?
I was a sprinter.
Okay.
The 200. Yeah.
Interesting. That was always one of those things too. It's not necessarily accurate, but that was one of those things I used to teach my boys too. Listen, because they like me. They took after me for the most part, especially my youngest son. Like they attracted to. I think one of the most sexiest things in the world. Just me, my preference. Or for me, it's not necessary, but it moves you to the top of the top of the list when a woman is educated and is actually educated in sports. Not when you watch a football and what's that thingy, and the way he threw the thingy, like if you know sports,
it's very sexy.
Sports and able to talk about defense, the 4-3 defense versus why they do it, why you pressuring them like that? Come on, man, rep with a flag. That is such a turn on to me, right? So I used to always tell them, like, all right, now one thing you gotta understand is you got track and you got field. You got softball, you got basketball. One thing you ain't got to never worry about is a sprinter putting on too much weight. They usually gonna be set for life for the most part.
I wish.
Cross country, something different.
I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't been a sprinter, but man, it's a struggle. It's a struggle on this side of the hill, put it that way, just to keep the weight down. But I don't know. I'm not a big sports head. I really don't know a lot about sports. I dated a guy one time who knew I didn't know a lot about sports, but he allowed me to, because I will support whatever sport my guy likes. So. Yeah. If football is your thing, I will be there with the jersey on and the number on the back. And, when I hear the crowd roaring, I'm going to roar right along with the crowd. I don't really care about football because it takes too long and there's too many different plays for me to understand all the things. Go this side to that side, and we're going to be here for about 4 hours, But anyways, he respected the fact that I didn't really know a lot about sports, so much so that even when we broke up and I had to go to, meetings with colleagues or what have you, I used to always call him and say, hey, what do I need to know about this so that I can have an intelligent conversation? And he would give me the scoop on the football or whatever was going on. I know enough to get by, but I'm not a real big sports girl, but I know enough to get by.
That's what's up. I like that. And like I said, it's not a deal breaker. That's per se. It's just that in women that could actually sing. Now that right there, that might bypass the look like you asked me earlier. And I was joking. I was serious, but I was joking. But it's like I don't care about your weight. I don't care about your height. I don't care about your size. If you could really sing,
Wow, a crooner.
like I'm so in love with music
That just
and actual singers. Not just lovers of music, but when you actually can sing. I will be your Stedman.
forever.
Like,
I guess my
there's nothing
cousin,
like a woman that can sing to me. Because I
he
love
likes
music that much.
men. I know that men love a singer. My cousin, he's in love with a singer too, um, yeah, yeah, that seems to be his lane. He likes a singer, but you know, I don't know. I'm kind of like I love that show that Issa Rae had on YouTube. What was it? Diary of an Awkward Black Girl or something like that. I subscribe to her show so much because
Mhm.
that's me. I'm the awkward black girl. I grew up in a very diverse community, so you know I didn't learn how to do a whole lot of the dances that all the other girls were doing. When I go see my cousins go to the cookouts and whatnot, they're doing all the dances and
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I'll just sit over here. So I didn't learn to do all of that. But one of the things that I guess maybe why I'm a sapio sapien is I just really I love a person who has a just a big personality. Somebody who is just a big. If they just light up the room, um, I'm gonna probably be blinded by that light. I just like somebody who is just a big personality. So that's always been something that I've been really attracted to. And for
Has
some,
that ever been like the downfall on the opposite side of somebody that you dated?
yes, of course, because big
Like it was
personalities
too
come with
big?
egos.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes with big egos, and big egos are hard to get past. But um, yeah, I mean, I do. I like somebody who's a big personality because the truth of the matter is I'm kind of an introvert, believe it or not. I
Mhm.
know that like my work makes me be out in front of people, and I enjoy talking to people sometimes, but the truth of the matter is I'm an introvert. So to be with somebody who's more of an extrovert, it just makes sense. Like let them work the room,
Mhm.
and I can.
So do you believe that opposites attracts, or you know, typically does that work, or is it more or less organic?
I do think that opposites attract in some ways because where that's that whole yin and yang where
Mhm.
people complement each other in different ways. But I don't think that you can be so far on the spectrum of being opposite that you don't know each other.
Yeah.
So I even though there might be some element of like someone's more outgoing and someone's less outgoing, I think you still have to have some common ground in order to make it work.
Mhm. Yeah. I get that because I had this one young lady that I was seeing at one time, and she would always, when you gonna take me to where you're from?
Never
I'm
you
never,
wouldn't
I'm never taking you to where I'm from
why?
because one, it has nothing to do with her. It's like as much as I love Newark, Newark is as much as I have people in my life that I want to see Newark and enjoy Newark for what it is to me, and this is the place that I grew up. I don't want to be responsible for anybody in my city. You know what I mean? And it's like even when I travel, if I go out to LA because I'm from the hood, I want to ride through Compton. I ain't got to go through being part of no drive by. I don't have to see none of that there. But I don't just want to see Maui, not Maui, what is it?
Manhattan Beach, Malibu,
Malibu, Santa
Santa
Monica.
Monica.
Like I don't just want to see those places. I want to see what Compton look like. I want to see what Inglewood look like. You know what I mean? Just because that's my upbringing, and if you're not that type of, if you didn't grow up that way, you're going to be kind of, and I don't want you to be uncomfortable or fake being comfortable when you're really uncomfortable because you're not used to being in these type atmospheres. If that makes sense.
So in that particular situation, I would say that you guys are probably too far apart on the spectrum of different because um, I truly believe that it doesn't matter what a person is used to. if I'm dating somebody who has had a real a real spoon in their, what is it, a silver spoon in their mouth, born with a silver spoon in their mouth. If I'm
Mhm.
with somebody who's had a very cultured life and a very a sophisticated upbringing, and I take them back to my neighborhood in LA where I grew up. Little sidebar, um, when Rodney King got beat, that
Mhm.
corner that Reginald Denny got beat on was Florence and Normandy. We used
Mhm.
to live on 99th and Normandy in LA.
Wow.
It was wild. They called our street Sherm Alley. My mom used to only be able to put like $3 worth of gas in our car because they would siphon the gas out of our car. My mom would put her plants outside. People would steal them and put them in their front yard. We'd see our plants in their house. Like, it was really crazy. So we didn't live there very long before we ended up leaving. But so I've lived on the worst parts of town, and I've also lived in some of the best parts of town. So I feel like I have a really balanced upbringing. So if I'm dating somebody who has a real bougie upbringing, so let's say, and I take them back to 99th and Normandy, if they can't handle that, that's
Mhm.
not my dude.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like, even though we are different, there's got to be somewhere where we can come together and you just understand, like, hey, read the room. This is what's going
Mhm.
on here. If everybody's eating barbecue with their fingers, then pick it up
Yeah.
and eat it with your fingers.
Mhm.
Don't make a spectacle of yourself. And I think a lot of times we try to just fit a square peg into a round hole and be with people who are just not going to work no matter what.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
maybe and I'm kind of learning that. I'm learning a journey of, like, hey, don't keep trying to, fit a square peg in a round hole. Sometimes that's just not your peg. So
I'm with you.
find the person who can read the room.
So what you mean you from Normandy, but you don't know how to do the dances at the cookout?
So when I was little, I lived we left that street. We left 99th and Normandy when I was 8. And
Okay.
we moved out to Orange County, and there were like 3 black families at the time, and we all knew each other, but there was only 3 of us. It was a sea of other people. And unfortunately, like, middle school is about the time when girls start learning how to dance, and you do your little hula hoop when you're a kid, and when you're little, but then that hula hoop has to turn into something else when you get into middle school. And it just didn't hit. It just didn't hit for me. And I'm an awkward girl, so whatever. But um, I tell everybody, if you drive up next to me and you pull up next to me at the stop sign, you'll think I can do it, because from here up. But one of my goals that is on my list, I want to learn how to do the Chicago step. So that's on my bucket list. I'm going to step eventually. I want to do the whole turn, the dip, all of that. I want to do all
I
of
used
that.
to be pretty good at it. It's been years. It's been many, as my mom would say, it's been many moons ago, but I used to actually know how to do it.
I'm
Uh,
good.
hey, what's good, Sam? Um, yeah, and it's funny that you would say that because I used to love the movie Orange County. I used to watch it all the time. Like, it wasn't really big, but it was so funny to me. And Jack Black was so hilarious. So just based off of the way that movie was, if it's anything like that, I could imagine, like, yeah, you were
Just
in
like
a sea of newness, I would say.
a sea of newness.
That's a bit extreme for going from Normandy to that type of atmosphere.
It was a total mind trip, honestly, because my whole life had been really black, up until that point. Really black up until that point. And then we moved out there, and it was crazy. She tried sending me to a magnet school out in San Pedro. What was happening, along with the crimes that we were experiencing, but I would go to school and people were stealing my coat. I was just getting robbed all the time, and my mom was really worried that something would happen. She did, I don't blame her, because she did the best that she could at that time. This whole Nolan Wells thing is really interesting to me, and I've been telling everyone, that I speak to about it that I really relate to this story so much, because Nolan's family probably took him out here to this school and amongst these friends, really thinking we're going to give him something better,
Never,
give him
yeah.
a better life.
Mm-hmm.
We want him to have the best of everything, and you can't blame parents for wanting that for their children.
Mm-hmm.
Every parent I know wants to send their kid to the best school, live in the best neighborhoods, all that kind of stuff. When that happens and you are the only one or one of few,
Mm-hmm.
you have to assimilate, or you will just automatically assimilate with the people around you, period.
Absolutely.
So how the boys are saying, the young men are saying, well, he was our buddy and all of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that I don't think there was anything nefarious going on, because I truly do, but the point is I also believe that he was their buddy, and I believe that he thought that they were his. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't necessarily believe it was race related, whatever happened to him. I think that as parties go with young people, things happen, and sometimes things happen that listen. If you want to tell a secret to somebody, tell a kid, because kids will lie till the cows come home. Kids won't tell the truth for nothing. So I'm just thinking that something terrible happened. They're sitting on this lie because they're very afraid, and whatever it was, it might have been an accident, and they just don't want to come clean. That's the way I see it. I hope that somebody does come clean. I hope his parents can get some peace and some peace of mind and some rest. But I understand and relate to Nolan, because I grew up like that. I was on the boats out, snorkeling and skiing and doing all the things that I never would have done had we stayed on 99th in Normandy. So I'm thankful to my mother for that. And even growing up, I had the opportunity, even though I didn't necessarily feel different than anybody in the sense of like my education or what have you. But even as I was getting my education, even without education, I was given sort of like a pass because I sounded different, I spoke differently or whatever. And it used to make me mad because people would say, well, say something, you sound so proper. I used to get so upset with that. But then I realized that like being able to just articulate my thoughts and have the ability to speak has opened up a lot of doors for me. Now, I wish that people would reach back to kids in communities where they don't get to see those type of things or experience those type of opportunities and show it to them. But for some reason in our community, when we ascend to something or we move away from those things, we don't ever look back. And I think that it's important to share those opportunities with young people, because man, I think every kid should have the opportunity to go boating and experience what that's all about. That's not a white activity. That's very much I mean, you don't think there's boats over in Africa on the Congo, like they had to get from A to B. So knowing how to boat, knowing how to just do the things that are often closed out to us, I think is something that we should really open our minds up to and experience. Because a lot of times we say, well, I've heard a lot of people saying, well, I wouldn't let my kid hang out with all those white people or whatever. Your kid is going to hang out with all those white people the minute they go to work. The minute they get a job, your kid is going to be hanging out with all those white people. And so I think that it's very important that we teach our children how to make it in a world that is not just very few people live in a world that is just one thing.
The surroundings.
It's not going to happen. The military teaches you that. I think when you join the military, I was not in the military, but I was a spouse of someone, and my kids both served. And I just know that once you go into the military, it's everybody there. So if you come from some backwoods, whatever, and you've never been around people of different cultures and backgrounds, it's going to be a culture shock, because that's your, what do they call it? Your foxhole buddy, or your whole, I don't know. I was here, but you're
when you're in the fox trap
buddy or whatever. You got to save the kid that doesn't look like you, just like you got to save the one that might look like you. So Um, that's a whole big thing that has just touched my heart here lately about Nolan, and I really pray that they get to the bottom of what happened to him so that his parents can have some peace.
Mm-hmm. Sam said, "I wish people sometimes would wait to assume." His football coach said that there were over 30 black kids, including himself, on the island. Um, yeah, and it's funny that you even bring that up because somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, why haven't you done the show? Why haven't you talked about the whole Nolan Wells? I said because one, it's still too fresh. Two, I don't have enough information. I don't know what happened. I just see everybody has an opinion, and I don't like to do that. That's why I'm glad that the president is only voted for every 4 years because I can't wait till December comes when it's all over. Like
Right.
the whole back and forth, and you got to do this, and if you don't do that, then you got to educate yourself, on all these different things. Where right now we're all just no different than Courtney Kemp right now. We all just writers, showrunners at this particular point because none of us know what happened. So it always amazes me when people have no, because I seen the parents and the parents said this and that did, but the parents wasn't there. And I think that you made a good valid point too. That's why my heart goes out, regardless of what happened. My heart goes out to his parents because as you were talking, I was thinking about it from this aspect. Me personally, you know, can you imagine being from Normandy in your situation, and you move to Orange County, and that's where you get unalived that not on Normandy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like you said, as parents, we want better for our children, but this. I got you out of that situation to come to this situation to give you a better opportunity, but this never happened to you in the hood.
Right.
That has to be a whole different level of, man. I just had compassion, and my prayers really go out to the parents because, like you say, who would ever thought? We're supposed to be safe in Beverly Hills. We're supposed to be safe in Santa Monica, Calabasas. That type of thing doesn't happen here. We expect that in Compton.
I think in some of our neighborhoods, the fear is drugs and crime or illegal activity or what have you. But as a kid who grew up in both kind of neighborhoods, I can tell you that there's a lot of drugs and crime in neighborhoods that are considered to be better. And the things that they're doing in the wealthier, more privileged environments because they have access to the money and to things would blow a parent's mind.
Absolutely.
So when it came to my turn to raise my kids, I made sure that they always lived and went to school in areas that were very diverse, like very diverse. So, raising my kids in Long Beach, we left. I left that part of Orange County and decided to move to Long Beach. And then even here in North Carolina, I wanted to make sure that my son, when he was finishing school, he went to a school that was very diverse. A lot of the time, my kids went to military schools, so we didn't have to worry about that because we were living on base. But it was something I was always very conscious of because one of the things that I experienced, especially in this government that we're in right now, this era of government, is a lot of the friends that I grew up with in Orange County. They had the same sort of feeling as Nolan's friends. Like, we were the same. What was different for you? We all had the same opportunities, and I can't even explain white privilege to them because it's like, so they've never had to experience it, so they have no.
That's all they know. Yeah,
that's all they know. And then the people who were not white but white adjacent, the Asian people who got to still experience white privilege by proximity, it's hard to explain these things to them. These were my friends. I remember having a political conversation on the schoolyard with two of my girlfriends, and if they were watching this, they would know exactly, they would remember. It was Lori, and we were having a conversation, the two Loris and me, out on the schoolyard about Reagan. about Reaganomics, and we were in middle school. So, your kids end up parroting everything that you say as an adult. When you have these children and you're raising them in these households, your kids parrot exactly what you say. Because I was talking to these two little Republicans, and we were like 11 and 12 years old, and they were trying to defend their position to me. And, it's just crazy how kids just repeat what they hear at home and what they end up experiencing as they become adults. Because my friends have said to me, "Oh, Monica, we were so close. You did the same things we did. We hung out at the same places and da 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 da." But my life has definitely not been the same as theirs, because the moment we got out of high school and the moment we had to go into our lives, our colleges or our work fields, or then that's when you notice it changes. Our paychecks aren't the same.
Yeah.
Especially me being in a sales industry, like I don't always get I don't always win the bid. I don't always win the appointment, and it could be for a number of reasons, but I know sometimes it's for other reasons. I know it's not the reasons that people might say, well, maybe you just didn't have a good presentation, or maybe I was just black that day. Maybe I was just driving while black that day. I remember one time going up to Oakland, and I hadn't been to like the city in a long time, and I was a newlywed, and I had just had my daughter. And so I was fresh off of my little Orange County experience as a kid. And now here we are up in Oakland, and we were driving an Altima. You know the Altima.
Yeah.
The teal green one with the tinted windows and the spoiler on the back that we all had. You know that one, right? So we were driving the Altima, and we got pulled over in Oakland, and they yanked us out of the car, threw us onto the ground, had our faces on the hot cement in the middle of the summer. And my ex-husband's little sister was with us. She was only like 12 years old. And they said that we fit the description of someone who had just robbed a liquor store. How did we fit the description? My military husband, his wife, and the little sister. When have you known two girls and a guy to go into a liquor store and just rob it, just plain like that? So, there's no way my friends from Orange County can say we've had the same experiences. We have not. And we will never have the same experiences. And so it's heartbreaking, because even though these were my bestest, closest friends growing up, they were my buddies, like Nolan's friends are saying, my buddy, my bestest, closest buddy, my brother. Even though that is the case, when you are Black in this country, you have to consider that sometimes things take another turn because we are different. And so I feel terrible that these kids right now are saying, well, we just wish that it wasn't a focus on the race. I don't think that whatever happened to him did have anything to do with race. But you can't exclude the fact that we're going to have the race conversation, because race literally affects everything when you are Black. And that is the unfortunate thing, that these kids and their parents do not understand or are not teaching them. And I'm just so grateful that this conversation is people are talking about it online, and it really hits home for me, because I'm like, wow, I was Nolan. I was Nolan growing up,
And I think that's a good aspect of it too, because from the aspect of, like, I remember, I just remembered that when we had my oldest son, I had always said, listen, before I even had children, I always said, once I leave Jersey, I'm leaving for good. I'm never going back. That was just my position. But then once was pregnant with my oldest son, it's like, okay, now it's time to go. Where are we going? We won't be in North. We didn't leave Jersey immediately, but we left my city. Because I wanted something different for my children. I didn't necessarily care about diversity, because from my experience, like I tell people all the time, the only white people we seen was on TV, like, and a few teachers here and there. Like, I didn't go to school with any white kids, from my freshman year to my 12th grade year. I only went to school with 2 white students. And when my freshman year, we had one. He graduated when I was a sophomore. And when I was a senior, We had another one come in, but that was the only two white kids that I ever went to school with. You know what I mean? So my experience was different. So I get exactly what you're saying from the opposite end of the spectrum. Sam said, "Is there such a thing as black privilege?" To a certain degree, I believe so. From the opposite end of the spectrum, and it might sound me being sarcastic. Everybody know me and my sense of humor, but it's like black privilege is a black person to be able to go to North. You know, it reminds me of the movie Rebound. I don't know if you guys seen the movie Rebound, but there's a scene in Rebound where Martin, he's the coach of this elementary school, and he finds this white boy that's like in the 8th grade, but he's like 6'5", let's say 6'5". He said, "Listen, all you got to do is stand underneath the basket and put your hands up." Now the boy can't play a lick of basketball, but when people see him, they gonna automatically think. So, is there such thing as black privilege? I don't know, but maybe so. I know I could go to certain places that John Connors can't go. You know what I mean? So that's a privilege. It might not be as beneficial as what we consider as white privilege, but there is, something to it. He also says sales is a hard and stressful industry to start with. Does she? Oh, what? I guess you guys ask her, Sam. She said, Monica? Do you think all black people have the same experiences?
Oh gosh, no, we're not a monolith. I don't believe so. When I used to work at a very prominent college here in the area, I will say. And when I was working there, I was in the housing office, in the housing department. And because I'm a speaker, because I speak to people, I believe that they utilize that to reach a lot of the other students and faculty because they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it was frustrating to a lot of the people because they would say that, like, we're not a monolith. One person cannot speak for us. And I never felt like I was. I never wanted to be. But I think that white people are always looking for that one safe, good black person that they could talk to, that they could get through to. And maybe they felt that when they were talking to me, but I never subscribed to it because my experience has always, as a black woman who lived in a predominantly white community growing up, I witnessed a lot of the KKK. I witnessed a lot of people wearing swastikas, crazy skinheads in Orange County, California. I mean, the skinheads are running wild out there, or at least back then they were. And there was one of the black kids that lived in my neighborhood. He actually was a skinhead. He was running around with his bomber jacket and his little swastika on the back. And I used to think Woody was so crazy. I'm like, Woody, how, why, how, sway? Back then, how, sway? But Woody was lost. Woody grew up like I did, but he didn't get to grow up in LA first.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what he knew, yeah.
So the difference between me and maybe other people who have experienced similar experiences is I got to experience LA first. I got to experience LA for the first 8 years of my life. And then I also lived part of the time with my grandmother in New Orleans. And New Orleans back in those days was blackity black, 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 black.
Mm-hmm.
At least the part that we lived in was blackity black, 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 black. So I would say, my childhood, the basis of my childhood, I got to experience growing up. We went to church all the time. I had to wear the little doily on my head, had to walk to AME, I had to do all the things. We had church on Wednesday, we had church on Sunday, so I had a very black childhood growing up. It wasn't until we moved out to Orange County that it was just like, I woke up one morning and the lights came on, like, boom, oh, okay. It was very strange and it was very jarring. And I think that it had an effect on me growing up for a very long time. I did not want to put my children through that same experience. I made sure that they did not grow up in a neighborhood that was just one thing of anything. Mm-hmm. And I stand on that. I still believe that that was the right decision, and I would do it all over again because growing up like Nolan, and yeah, I'm glad that one of the people pointed out that there was like 30 black kids on there, which is way more than I grew up with. Way more than I grew up with. But even with 30, when you think of like a graduating class of how many kids are going to graduate from his graduating class? Will it be 500? Will it be 1,000? Will it be 2,000? If there's only 30 and they're not all part of the graduating class, that still makes poor Nolan a very, very small minority. And so, and it affects who you date. It affects how you date. Maybe that is why I'm the awkward black girl, because I didn't date the same way my girlfriends dated, where they got to go out with all the guys and the football guy and the this guy and the that guy. I'm waiting around for the next black kid to come into the school.
Other than Woody.
when one came into the school, I'll take him. He didn't have to have the best car or anything, but so it just it definitely is something that I think we have to pay attention to as a community. Is like, what did Nolan's family go through, and what are they going through now? And I bet his mother probably thought she had some real good friends, and she's probably experiencing that that some people that she thought were her friends are not, and they're probably wondering like, why are you hiring these people? Why are you doing all of these things? Because they think that she's one of them. She might even thought she was one of them. Who knows?
And I think that there's a movie about that. I think it's called Farming with Damson Idris, the dude that played Franklin. He's like that over in London, where he grows up in this neighborhood. He like your friend Woody, you know what I mean? Where he's the black skinhead. Amongst all these, but and it was just crazy. It was crazy. But I understand that that's a possibility in some people's reality. We might think of it as a movie, but like you said, that's really just very interesting to know that you know somebody like that.
Well, we don't know each other anymore, but growing up, I really always thought he was absolutely just out of his mind crazy. I really did, because I was like, don't you understand what you're doing? But poor Woody, he did not have the opportunity to grow up anywhere else.
And he said, Sam said, racists also make money. Hashtag race hustlers. Said, I know some black people who try to find white friends too. Most of the black folks I know moved to white areas when they became successful.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. So now, just for the record, I live in Durham. And for those who don't know, I live in Durham. I hate to say that. I know. I chose Durham because of this whole conversation that we've been talking about. I don't fear living around my people at all. I chose Durham for a lot of reasons. But anyways, moving to an area that when you reach a certain amount of success and you want to get out of the neighborhood, I can understand that. My cousin is a lot like you are, Marvin. He refuses to go back to New Orleans. He hates New Orleans. He don't want to take his family to New Orleans. If New Orleans would just light up and burn to pieces, he wouldn't care. Because his experience growing up was, not good. And he has chosen to move away from that environment and get his family out of that environment. And I get that. I get that very much. But as a person who works in real estate sales, I think it's very important that, and I can't tell people what to do and where to go, but I think it's very important that people understand there's a reason why we do both things. Some people move out of the neighborhood that they grew up in because they just want to experience something different. They just, and people should go somewhere different. Some people leave the neighborhood because of the crime, and they're just tired of having to, lock their doors. They're tired of their cars getting broken into. They're just tired of the foolishness, tired of the guy hanging out on the corner begging for $1 or whatever. And I get that. And then sometimes people leave the neighborhood because it makes them feel accomplished. It makes them
Mm-hmm.
feel a type of way to say, I now live in Cary. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah,
have
exactly.
finally made it to, you know,
I'm a
like,
Caryite.
yeah, I finally made it over here. So, I get all the reasons why people choose to leave the neighborhood, but I really also admire and respect of people who stay in the neighborhood. One of the reasons why I chose to move to Durham was because I wanted my tax dollars, and I moved my son from we're living in Chapel Hill. I moved him from East Chapel Hill to the school that we live near because I wanted my tax dollars to go to that school. That school needed my tax dollars. That school needed that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people think about that. Like
What up, T?
your home taxes pay for these raggedy schools that you're running away from. So if
Mm-hmm.
you stay and pay the taxes in the neighborhood that you live in, then you would be helping to provide education for the people who are growing up in that neighborhood. So, but I think that's more of a thing for um, gosh, I hate to get into this whole racial conversation, but I just think that as Black people, we've been trained to run away sometimes from ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a mental thing that we sometimes have to overcome.
And it
Because
goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's just being true to our own self. Because, like I said, that was my mindset as a parent, and it's like I found myself in the last couple of years even entertaining the possibility of moving back to Newark. You know what I mean? Because, like, not that it's probably gonna happen, but now I'm at the place where I can actually entertain it. You know what I mean? Because my part, it all started with a couple of years ago. I went back and I got to revisit my high school that I graduated from, and principal took me on a tour and all that did, and I was so emotional being in those hallways after over 30 years, and just to see the growth, and the high school that I graduated from is like on the national scene now. What the principal is doing, Akbar, shout out to Principal Akbar Cook. The school is open almost 24 hours. You got homeless people where
what?
homeless students.
24 hours?
Yeah, they got. I think they might have changed it, but I know that you could go in there between like 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night for those that parents are working. You don't have anywhere to go. You don't feel safe. Free food. They have a grocery store inside the school now,
What?
where parents get to come in there. If you're a parent and you're a student of the school, you get to come in there for a whole discounted prices. They got the whiting fish. They got the vegetables. They got this here and that there. They have a cosmetology school set up in there where ladies that don't want to go to college, all these actual recording studio for people that want to learn how to become an engineer. Major things. They doing major things at the high school. So it was like, I remember him asking me, would you be interested in coming back to do the commencement service, like, doing graduation? And I'm like, wow. And it's like, I remember that was one of those things like growing up. Like, I remember everybody that ever came to talk to us, we immediately booed them. It didn't matter whether they were good, like as soon as they hit the stage, boo, like Showtime at the Apollo, like. And it's like, I was like, it would be such an honor for me to hit the stage and get booed, right? But I knew what I would want to talk about is, and what's something that's been near and dear to me, that has always been near and dear to me, is for people to understand, people from the hood to understand that there's a whole nother world outside of your hood. Like, you don't have to go just because grandma and great grandma all lived right here. Doesn't mean I'm not saying that you have to leave, but I need you to know that there's options. You could go to the military. There's a place called California. You could go in the military. You could go overseas and wind up moving, like going to Germany. And just, what we know about Germany historically. Why would I want to be a Black person over in Germany? They love us. You know what I mean? So all these different things. There's another whole world outside of your surroundings and how you grew up. I thought that was real perfect, but also felt like, for me to tell these kids that would be hypocritical for me to be able to get on a plane and go back to North Carolina, knowing what they got to deal with on a daily day basis, and what it's like dealing with gangs and all this other kind of stuff, and it's like, that's what really led me to entertaining the possibility of moving back home because it's like, oh, also like this. Yeah, I subscribe to this. It's like, if everybody leaves the hood, then
we can't
where
get
do we
mad.
at?
You can't get mad at gentrification if everybody leaves.
Exactly. So we somebody has to stay because we need examples that you can make it. And once you make it, that's one thing I love about Redman. Of course, he has other properties, but Redman still lives in North. And when you see him, you don't see him with a whole security team and all that there. You know what I mean? You don't have to move out, but you can't necessarily stay where you got either because, you know, Joker's going line you up. But it's levels to it. But everybody doesn't necessarily, because those schools, they still need teachers. They still need, you know what I mean? You need people that mentoring programs, what have you. So everybody can't leave. I get it. You know what I mean? And some people never have a desire to leave. I got family members that you can't get them to even entertain leaving the state of New Jersey. No matter how expensive it is and all that there. Like, listen, then they come down here and visit. Oh man, I've been telling you, but I ain't moving down here. It's too this and it's too. You know, people are comfortable sometimes with their own surroundings. And that's no right or wrong, but you know, to each his own. Sam said, some people leave because there are no more black communities. Only neighborhoods exist. Community is collective. Neighborhoods are just geography. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, I've always been a person, and that's one reason I was a big fan of Malcolm X. Like, I've always subscribed to this, and it's not popular, especially in our community, but it's my opinion. So that's what it is to me. But inclusion, I would have been more of a separatist. What they call it, Pan-Africanism or whatever the case may be.
Okay, Dr. Umar.
You know what I mean? I can't. No, you never call me him because I can't stand him ever.
Listen,
dude, where's the school at?
In Pan-Africanism.
Where's the school at, bruh? Like, he's another hustler too, but that's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying is, like, when we had integration, when you think about Wilmington, North Carolina, if you know anything about the history of Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington was thriving way before Black Wall Street in Tulsa, before Greenwood. Like, they had their own newspaper, they had their own hospital, they had their own everything. You know, it's the big, great documentary. I think it came out like maybe 2013, 15, somewhere around there. Wilmington on Fire. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it, find it, watch it. It's just very good documentary. But the point is, people got to realize, even though a lot of black people, they from the perspective of the marches and whatnot, we want to be included. We want to include, you know, here in Greensboro, the Greensboro 4. We want an integration. For me, there's no way in the world you would have ever got me to be on one of those committees. Why? Because I'm letting you pour milk on me. I'm letting you sick dogs on me for me to have the right to eat in your establishment. Once we get that right and you let me in, I don't know what you're doing in the back of my food. So I don't want to be nowhere that I'm not wanted. You know what I mean? So I just think that it should be optional. If you want to integrate, cool. But I don't think that integration should be forced upon us either. You know what I mean?
Marvin, I hope that if you have someone else come on and to talk about that, please call me, because I want to. I think that's such an interesting conversation about. I think if we named it something different instead of segregation, or separatism or whatever, if we named it something different, I think people would be more interested in it.
Yeah.
Because I think that people do want a sense of community with people who are like themselves, and for some reason, Black people are the only ones that get chastised for creating those type of communities. In California, we have Chinatown. We know exactly what Chinatown is.
New York too, yeah.
And it is what we have Koreatown. We even have a Jewish town. You know, like we know that the north part of Crenshaw, that's where the Jews used to live. You know, so
yeah.
And this has always been okay. until we
Mhm.
to do that. And you know, I think that we are so far as a people, so far from being able to do it successfully because one, we just have to get over a lot of our isms, a lot of our
Mhm.
stuff that we came from slavery with, and a lot of our we don't trust one another. We don't even want to really shop black and buy black. You know, when you tell somebody to buy black for 6 months, I'm still gonna go here. I'm still gonna go there. I'm still gonna get my. We are just so not willing to put in that time and the effort that is needed. So with that being said, since we're so far from actually creating a town that would be just for us, where we could look out for us and police us and really take care of us, I think the next best thing is going back to our communities where we come from and mentoring people. And I love talking to young girls and young women. I love talking to them about just life and decisions that we make and the things that we can sometimes fall into and the things we should be doing and that kind of stuff. This is what I used to do when I was in church. Women's ministry was like huge to me. I really poured into that. I loved it so much. But I think that we all have a responsibility. We just haven't met the call. We haven't answered the call.
Mhm.
Each and every one of us, no matter what color, religion, wherever you are, whatever you are, the assignment here on earth is to give back and
Mhm.
to teach and to mentor or share an experience with the person who is left behind us. That's the whole inheritance concept. It's not just about money, it's not just about insurance, it's about teaching one that is and then giving it to them and then leaving here and then leaving that nugget with the generation behind us. So what you're speaking about doing in New Jersey, yeah, it would be great if you could live around the corner and they could talk to Mr. Marvin and they saw you at the graduation and whatnot. But I think just even the little moments of going back and speaking to them and pouring into the children is something that we really, really need. We really, really need more of that.
Mhm. And like you say, I'm not against inclusion. Let me be clear on that. But what I'm saying is, I'm
You
I'm a motive I'm a motive person, right? Don't ever think that they opened up or they integrated because it was the right thing to do.
yeah.
They seen how much money was generated in these self-thriving black communities and said, "Listen, we
Well,
wanted on that. Did they were
well,
still racist, and we gonna let you in. We don't like you just because of your skin color, but we do want your money." So that's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Don't think that it was because, oh, you know what? Doggone it, we're all equal. We're all constitutional. No. They seen the way that they can make money. Why you think all this stuff? Because we live in a capitalistic society. We live where everything is commercial. Why do you think they making such a big deal out of Juneteenth now? Because black people gonna spend even more money. Screw the 4th of July. But guess where that money's still going? It's going in their pockets.
mm-hmm.
Do not be that. All I'm saying is don't be fooled. You know what I mean? It ain't
No,
always what you do, is why you do it. And everybody's motive isn't always good. When I was so anti the I call it the guest juice, when they was forcing everybody to get it, and people, oh man, I wouldn't even entertain it. I wouldn't even entertain it, me personally. You know what I mean? Because I know God's gonna take care of me. If I'd have felt like God Almighty had told me to do it, I'd have did it. Until He tell me to, I don't care what those CDC say. I don't care what no pastor say. I don't care what nobody else say. Yeah, I was never entertaining taking that shot. Right now, having said that, it's like how many people, how many relationships I've lost because of it. You know what I mean?
really.
Oh, well, you don't care about your family. You don't care about what about your parents and all that did. Now all this information is coming out. You know what I'm saying? Where believe whatever you want to believe, because none of us know totality. All I'm saying is I stand by my convictions. I'm not gonna subscribe to that, because this was the one question I used to ask. When in the history of this great nation, sarcastically speaking, has this country ever did anything for us just because it was the right thing to do? Now all of a sudden we got this thing called cocoa, and the government say, you know what? It's good for you to. We're going to do this because everybody needs it. Matter of fact, we're going to give you a $25 gas card. Some states was actually having a lottery for up to $1 million to get the shot. You know what I mean? When have this country ever did anything out of the kindness of their heart because it was the right thing to do? Never. So why am I going to think in 2020 is about to start now? That's just my that was my outlook on it, and I stand by that decision. You know what I mean? I've never known this country to do, like, if that was the case, they would have let us know. They would have gave us a cure for cancer already. But there's so much money looking for this fake cure that you already have. But why would we give you the cure when we make so much money on radiation or on all? You know what I mean?
Right.
We generate so much money looking for this cure, so we could never give you the cure because what we need you for. You know, I used to work at a gym. That's the purpose of personal trainers. That's why they keep you coming back. Because most people say, well, I get them for 2 or 3 weeks, and then that's give me enough but they give you enough just to keep you coming back. That's how they make their living. You know what I mean? So that's neither here nor there. I kind of went on a little tangent there, but I just don't like when people don't understand or subscribe to these different things. Like even when Sam was saying earlier, I know people like that too, that grew up. All they want is a white friend and vice versa. Just so you know, look, white people, I'm not racist. Look, I got a black friend. I grew up, look, Monica, I got Monica. Say hello to the people, Monica. You know what I mean? I never really personally cared about that. I never had anything, no animosity toward white people, so to speak. And that's one of the things that I'm glad you brought up. Because like when I never didn't go into the military, but I worked for a particular airline when I first got out of high school. And I worked at Newark Airport. So we literally had over 6,000 employees at this particular company, above the wing, and people that worked on the ramp, and then you had the ticket agents and all that there. So it was like so diverse. So we had people from all different backgrounds, and we didn't see that when we planned a trip to go to California. We want to go out there to the award show or All-Star Weekend, and we all get to fly pretty much for free. We didn't care who was going, you know what I mean? But then we had stuff like Jack the Rapper and Freaknik, Y'all can come with us if you want to, but you might not feel as comfortable. But I'm not going to tell you that you can't come. So it's different levels to it. You know what I mean? But I judge everybody by the measure of themselves. Whether you're white, Indian, I don't care about none of that. What you are, either we gonna click or we not. You know what I mean? If we don't, that's cool too. But give everybody a chance to be a show that they are a good human being, because that's all that really matters at the end of the day. I don't want to be known as a good black man. That's why I used to like we had like people like Tony Dungy. I remember when he first won the Super Bowl and all that. Not Tony Dungy, Lovey Smith, and they were talking about all that kind of stuff there. Even Bill Russell back in the day. I'm not a black coach. I'm just a coach. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you, how I grew up and how I feel, why wouldn't you want to associate it with your blackness and all that there? But I also get it. Because I don't want you to be putting no asterisks next to me. I don't want nobody to say that Monica is a good, black, because she's a black woman. Yeah. You know what I mean? No, measure me on the merit that I'm a good real estate agent. Period.
Yes.
So I think that's very important, and especially when we talk about context. Sam said, "What is it? New York was giving a free burger and fries. NY was giving a free burger and fries." Oh, you talking about Coco? Yeah, I've seen so many different things. It was crazy, and I know people. Now I ain't taking a shot either, but as soon as they got that little $25, you sold the soul for $25 gift card, a gas card, like what? That's neither here nor there. He said that's why they're pushing the trans movement. It's an entire new money stream. Could be. I don't really care about it one way or another. But I do want to say this before we get out of here. I absolutely love I don't know if you're familiar with him. You said you're not really into sports, but in his cancer, um, he said he's applying for the WNBA. Now he's a retired NBA player that and I love it so much. I love it so much.
Wait a minute.
Because
What? You,
he's retired from the NBA, but he's gonna apply for the WNBA because
he's trans.
no, he's not trans. It's just that he identifies as a woman from sometimes. And the
Oh,
whole purpose of this is because the WNBA won't be clear and clarify what they specify as a woman.
okay. He's making.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. A lot of people see y'all be going too far. No, if you wanna stop the madness or the nonsense, so to speak, how about you just tell us what constitutes as a woman? You know why they don't want to do that? Because they don't want to offend nobody, and they're scared of those alphabet people. So therefore, guess what? I sometimes identify as a woman, and I hope he go in there and get 100 points and 50 rebounds every single game just because. You know what I mean? Like we got to stop the nonsense. You know what I mean? I don't like it. He said DeMarcus Cousins and Michael Beasley did also. Yeah, so it's more people that's jumping on the bandwagon. I absolutely love it because it's going to force your hand. Now you got to say what a woman is. You know what I mean?
I think we have to, everything that is new will receive some pushback. And I think that as we understand the way that people identify, there just isn't enough understanding about it yet. It hasn't been happening long enough for us to know how to treat it and what to do with it, and just how to handle ourselves, conduct ourselves as the people who are going through it, learn how to conduct themselves. And I really don't have a huge opinion on it other than the way I stand in the world as a woman. I don't appreciate having to identify myself as a cis woman. I'm just a woman. I was born a girl and I'm still a girl, a woman, and I don't want to have to identify myself as different. I think, though, that as trans people come into their own, we should make space for them to have their own identity, because it is not the same to be trans and a woman as it is to be a woman. It's just not the same. And I think that we have to start having more conversations around it. I think that natural born people that are women, natural born men, and people who identify as trans and identify as whatever, I think that everybody has to come together and start having conversations and say, I love you, I respect you, and I have no problem with the way that you identify. But in my space as a woman, I want to maintain this space as a woman, that this is what womanhood is.
And we are not the same.
And we are not the same. And I respect you, my sister of sorts, whatever, or my brother or whatever. But I love you. But I need you to understand that if you love me, then you will allow me to be in this space myself. Because what I experience hormonally and what I experience as a woman may be completely different than what you experience in your womanhood, in your version of womanhood. And I don't know where to put that. I don't know what to say about that. I'm absolutely an ally for the alphabet, LGBTQI, Q and A, whatever. I'm an ally for all of that. But I also feel like there needs to be an ally for just being a woman. Being a woman, and especially being a Black woman, we get just kicked all the way to the back of the room. I thought it was funny. I was watching something on the news recently, and it might have been, I can't even remember what it was, but it was something about the LGBTQ people were going to start doing something. I don't know, but they were going to start doing something. And they were saying, whatever the conversation was, it was like, okay, well, now we'll bring more attention to this topic. And it's like, once the LGBTQIA people get involved, then the attention can be brought here. But all along, civil rights has been fought for on our backs. We're the ones that have been on the front line dying for the civil rights and paying the ultimate price for civil rights. And then the LGBTQ community comes in and just sort of like blows it up, which is great. I'm glad that everybody can win, because we should just be respecting everybody anyway. We shouldn't have to have all these movements to respect people. But as a woman, especially a Black woman, I find it very interesting when I have to share space with someone, especially a white man who has been transitioned to being a woman, and then he wants the same rights that I have, that I don't have, and I can't even get, and da 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 da. Like, it really confuses the situation. And so I don't know. I mean, I feel so uncomfortable speaking on it, because it's not my place to speak. It's not my conversation to have. I feel like that should be somebody else should be here representing that opinion so that we could understand it a little bit better. But I just know that as a woman, as a black person, we were really offended at Rachel Dozier when she decided that she identified as Black. You know, we were not only offended, we were amused. We were so amused, and just like we didn't want her to be at the picnic. We didn't know what she was doing. What are you doing, girl, over there at the NAACP wearing braids and identifying as Black? It was crazy, right? So I think with that same fever as a woman, when I have to share space with someone who identifies as me, but has a naturally stronger body than I do, has natural other qualities than what I have, I feel a little uncomfortable sharing that space, because you really don't know what it feels like to wake up with cramps on a cold morning and have to get up and still get out there and hit it when your head is all messed up with hormones and your body is telling you, no, you really don't understand that. And there's no amount of drugs you're going to take that are going to help you to understand that. So that's where I draw the line. I mean, you know, do what you want, say what you want, be who you want. I'm fine with that. But allow women to have our space, because we already get pushed out of every space. And so this space is ours. We'd like to keep it. Thank you.
He says Royce White submitted his. Yeah, I seen that. Royce White was another one. He submitted his paperwork for the WNBA. Trans equal. Pretend that's Sam's statement, not mine. So if I tell Monica I'm a cat, is she going to give me space?
Listen, yes, I will. You can have your space with the other people who want to identify as cats. I don't care. But this space here that was given to me at birth, I think
you hit the nail on the head. I think it's about respecting what's different. You know what I mean? That's always my thing, is like, you know, how everybody has these different things, and it's like, I look at it almost equate to, I'm old enough to remember when you would actually smoke on airplanes.
Right.
Now, just because you got the right to don't mean that I want to have to put up with it, because I don't like smoking. I don't want no secondhand smoke.
Right.
So it's like these different things, you know, and it's like, because if you say you don't like me, my choice to be trans and transition and all that, then you're hating. No, I'm not hating.
Not hating at all.
But do you have the same? Are you fighting as hard for people to be able to do methamphetamines or ice? Are you fighting for that cause, for heroin addicts?
Well, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute, Marvin. Hold up. Because by saying that what they're fighting for is the same as the methamphetamines, you are almost saying that it is like an addiction or a problem or something, an illness or whatever. I don't know, whatever lane we would put addiction in, right?
Yeah, I would switch that out. Methamphetamines for alcohol. Let's say alcohol.
I wouldn't even
Because
say in alcohol. I would just say that if you are identified as if you identify as different, then we only get two choices, right? You come in here, you're a boy or girl, right? So I just think that we need to give
not
space.
anymore.
Well, that's just the thing. I think we need to give space to the options that you can now be. And I don't think that parents should be making that decision at birth. You don't, like I think you come here and let the child kind of grow up and decide what they want to be. But I don't want to put it into a category to make it like an ism or like alcoholism or anything like that. I just think that your sexuality and the way you identify, you can make your own lane for that. But you should never drive into somebody else's lane and try to kick them out of their lane that they were naturally born into and say, I'm also in here. Or you should never try to get into that lane and say, well, now we're both in the same lane, because we're not. Let's just create a new lane for you. And we will all respect that lane.
Yeah, and I think what I'm saying is it's like this. And like I said, you gotta identify whatever you want to. But in reality, I would love to identify as a billionaire.
And you can.
I can, but it doesn't mean that my bank is going to say the same thing.
Well, Marvin,
you just
manifestation begins with speaking those things as though they are.
Woosah. I get it. But until I could go into my account and I see that, I can identify whatever I want to. It doesn't. That's just my take, though. That's not Monica's opinion. These opinions are not expressed by me solely, not the propriety of the show. Sam says so. He said black women accept being pushed to the back. In my opinion, they fight more for other causes than their own. In my opinion, so she's an ally. So see, I guess he's talking about you, Monica. So you're an ally for trans, but not Rachel Dozier. I guess that's a question.
I'm not saying that I am an ally for trans. I'm an ally for people identifying with their sexual identity in whatever way they want to, because I think that your sexual identity is unique and personal to you. And I think that if we were more honest about sexuality, we would find that going back to biblical days, what we call queer today would probably be quite normal. Okay, period, hard pause. Let me go over to Rachel Dozier. Rachel lied to people. She lied to people about who she was, and she identified in a community that really could have used her just being who she was in a very positive way. She didn't have to change her identity. It kind of, remember that movie a long time ago, Soul Man, where he like put on that face.
And it was crazy because I never watched that movie because it just looked like it was so whack to me. I remember Eddie Murphy doing a skit about that when he's catching the bus as a white man in New York and all that.
Yes.
Oh, it's very interesting. Yeah.
Now, granted, people can have all sorts of identity crises, which may require the help of a psychiatrist or what have you, a therapist. But I'm frustrated with Rachel Dozier because she literally lied to people. She lied to people, and she knew better. And she took every stereotype that you could possibly think of as a Black woman, and she adopted it. When there are Black women that have straighter hair than her, there are Black women who have Black mother, Black father, and look white as she looks. So we are such a rainbow of people that she didn't need to do all of that to identify. She didn't have to do that. Now, granted, they say, well, what's wrong? Can she not braid her hair? Can she not do that? That's a whole conversation for another day. I personally, think that cultural appropriation is really whack. I think that, God, can we just have something to ourselves? Braids, I'm wearing locks and now everybody's wearing locks. And I think that's crazy. But hey, that's just me. I think it's crazy. At the end of the day, I just truly believe, to answer your caller's question, or the person who sent that message, I just believe that sexual identity is very personal. It's as personal as your relationship with God, and who God brings you into this world as, with, maybe you're a hermaphrodite, maybe you have both. I don't know. But I just think that's one place, that's one thing we really can't touch, because your bedroom is sacred. And we don't know what people do in their bedrooms, even for the most, what standard type of relationships, what man, woman, whatever.
Mhm.
Your bedroom is sacred. People don't know what you're doing in your bedroom. I don't even want to know what you're doing in your bedroom.
Mhm.
And nor should we. A husband and wife in the most traditional sense, we don't know. They could be in there doing this little, and they, maybe this is how they get off. They do this little thing, and that's their thing. Who are we to say what turns them on in their bedroom? I just don't think that's something that any of us have the right to touch, because just like we were talking earlier about that za, and you don't know what it is that turns you on about a person, whatever the za is that makes them interested in whatever they're interested in, we don't know. And frankly, everybody on this call might have a za that we don't know about. So that's between you and God, and me and God, and I just think that we can't touch it. It's unfortunate that we can't accept people for just being whoever they are and how they show up in the world. But if they're honest enough to say, hey, because it's got to take a lot of guts to show up and say, hey, I know I look like this boy, but I really feel like a girl, and I really identify in this way. Well, hey, if that's fine, and listen, I want you to be able to express yourself in any way you want. I just don't want you to say that you're mean, because I'm a woman and I got my own set of problems. So let's let me be a woman, and let's let you be what you identify with, and you be what you identify with, and we'll deal with your problems. But we need to create a lane for you. It's not this, and mine is not that.
And I think, like Sam, he's I'm not gonna say whether he's being sarcastic or not. That's up to him. But it's like, I think that's where, even when I start talking about the WNBA, I think clarity is important. Like, we can't just do it from a semantic standpoint or your rights, and because again, I don't really care what you do. If you have a penis and you want to chop it off, that's definitely your right. If that's, cool, kudos to you. You're more committed than me, because no, that's not even a possibility. Sam said you can't respect delusion though. I can't even see the other comment because it's too far up. Oh man, I hate when it does that. I wanted to get to it before it disappeared. Let's see. He said, how do you feel about men who have taken awards and won patents over women?
That frustrates me. I don't like it at all. I don't like it, not one bit. I think it was during the Olympics last year, or maybe it was the year before, I can't remember, but whatever, there was a swimmer that was, and that just made me very mad, because these poor girls had probably practiced all their lives and done so well.
Oh, what's good, Dre?
Just to be beat out by somebody who is naturally physically stronger. I just, men and women are just physically built differently. And so these women that they should have been pissed off too. They should have been pissed off too. And you have to do so much to qualify for the Olympics. You have to, eat the right things, and you can't take any drugs, and you can't do all this stuff. To say that you could modify your body, or even say that you want to modify your body, and then put yourself in a position with much more inferior competitors. I just thought that was so unfair, so unfair. And I think that person won that year, like won the gold or whatever, or won whatever the competition was.
Yeah, one of those medals.
Which
I
was
don't
so
remember her
sad.
name, but I do remember that situation.
That
Their
was so
name. I'm sorry, not her name, but their name. Let's get those pronouns right. Uh,
but
uh,
that was very sad because I felt like those poor girls, they really did. They fought hard to get there just to be beat by someone who probably wasn't even in the same class physically as them.
all right, we're gonna get out of here soon. Sam got a few more. He said she moving the goalpost. If a man can pretend to be a woman, why can't a person pretend to be another race? I guess the Rachel Dozier situation.
I mean, listen,
Is it just because you lied about it, or
I just didn't like that she was lying about it. Like, girl, tell the truth. Just say you like us.
so you could have came in as a white person and say, "How can I help?" And
Right. Just say that.
Gotcha.
Listen, we are the most welcoming people. We would have took that and ran all the way to the bank with it. Like, okay, she's down with us, cool.
What's good, Dre? Dre said doing 50 Shades of Grey. Sam said, so if I identify as a 15-year-old boy, should I be able to date a 15-year-old girl as a 40-year-old man?
No. No. That is pedophilia.
I get it, Sam. Hey, we gonna be respectful as what we gotta respect what people identify as. Like I said, I want to identify as a billionaire, and I'm not saying that is it. Like Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. I'm just saying my reality and what I identify as is two different things right now. He said, "How can you not like it if you're an ally?"
I don't know. Everything is very complex. I don't know. And all I will say is don't question it, because I am an ally. I love people, and I think people should be able to, for the most part, do however and whatever they want. But as a woman, I'm a woman first. I'm an ally for me first. Save your own self first. I think that it is hard enough to be a woman, especially a Black woman. We have enough challenges in our skin to have someone infiltrate this lane. Black women suffer a lot of pain and agony and unsafetyness. I'm getting sleepy. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's very difficult for Black women to have a safe pregnancy in this country. Black women have to be, they're out here hiring midwives just to have safe births. It is very difficult to be a Black woman, and it's very difficult to be a woman. It's very difficult to be in this skin without having someone who doesn't have any reason to be here other than their own identity. And so that identity we should create a lane for that, is all I'm saying. We have not done it because I think it's new, but we need to have a lane for, if we've got our X and our Y and our whatever, then we need to maybe have an L lane or whatever. I don't know, whatever that lane is, but we need to become more comfortable with the different identities of people so that they can feel comfortable in the lane that they're in. And we will all respect it. But this lane here is not the same. It's not the same as a woman who just cannot have kids, or it's not the same as a woman who just hasn't experienced her cycle. This is truly the way we were born. And I don't want to have to identify as a cis woman to do that. I'm a woman. If you're a man and you are something else, then that's what we will love, honor, and respect it to be. I want that for the community. I want that for the community so that it is just as normal to say, well, I am of this community as it is to say I'm a woman or I'm a man and I am of this. I want that for the community. And that's why I feel like I'm an ally, because I feel like I want the highest and best for everybody, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
And for me, just to be clear, I won't say that I'm an ally, but I'm definitely not against you either. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. It's like if we had a family reunion, right? We all family.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get to pick and choose our family, but if we got some dude that like to do cocaine, just go over there and do it. I'm not judging you for doing cocaine or whatever you went to over there. Don't get well. You think you better than me because you don't do coke? Like it's like everybody want to have an attitude where we don't subscribe to what they into. You know what I mean? Just like even, and I think a lot of it is close to home. Not for me personally, but I just think you feel that way because you feel as a black woman. Like you said, you don't know what it's like to feel as a man. You know, as black men, sometimes we feel like we hear what y'all saying as sisters, but we feel like we got it worse than y'all because we are black men. So, everybody's entitled to feel however they want to feel, identify as however you want to identify. But let's just respect the fact of differences that I'm not hating on you when I don't subscribe to what it is that you're into. You know what I mean? If you want to be a cross dresser and not trans at all, that's your right. But don't be mad when I'm telling you ain't getting in my car. It's like you gonna meet me wherever you want to meet me at.
Marvin, no.
I'm just saying. If you have the right to do whatever you want to do, I have the right to let whoever I want in my car.
You do.
I get to tell people all the time. I don't care whether you're smoking or not. You're not smoking those cigarettes in my car.
True.
So if you gotta smoke a cigarette every 15, 20 minutes, all right, make arrangements and I'll meet you wherever. But you're not getting in my car. Because that's my right for me to make my choice of what's gonna be around me.
That's your space.
You know what I mean? And I'm not telling you, I ain't gonna never speak to you because you smoke cigarettes. Just do what you do over there. I don't hate you. I still love you. It's just, I'm not into that. Just like I ain't mad when you ain't into what I'm into. I want to go play basketball. Well, I don't really feel like running. I just got my nails done. Cool. Don't mean that you don't hate me because you don't want to go play basketball with me. Just let's be respectful of each other's differences, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I think that's the part, like we said earlier, like we started tonight. That's part of it. A lot of this unclear stuff comes from the fact that we don't want to have hard conversations. You know what I mean? I can respect your point of view, and I can respect you as an individual, but just because I say I respect don't mean that I agree with everything that you do.
And you don't have
to support everything that you do.
Yeah.
But it's your right to do it.
It absolutely is. And I, going back to the issue about the car, I think the difference for me is like if you smoke in my car, it not only makes my car stink, but it affects my health.
Mm-hmm.
What you do with your health is your choice, but it affects my health and it makes my car stink. With the cocaine or whatever, they want to snort a little powder. Well, it's illegal, and by doing that in my car, you are causing me to be in a situation that we could all get pulled over and now I could go to jail. Mm-hmm. With somebody who is identifying as whatever, and they want to dress how whatever, that doesn't affect me. It doesn't make my car stink. It's not illegal. It doesn't cause me it does nothing to me. And that's why I feel like why I feel like I can be an ally, because I can share space with someone who wears whatever they want and does whatever they want, because it has no impact on me or my space whatsoever. In fact, I've just learned something sharing space with them, and maybe hopefully they've learned something sharing space with me. It does nothing to me. It takes nothing away from my space. So that's why I don't put them in the same category as smoking or doing something deviant, because it's not a deviance, in my opinion. It has nothing, no impact. It does nothing to me. That person simply got in the car wearing whatever they chose to wear. And when they get out of the car, they've got to deal with the world and how the world accepts them. But while we're in this car, they're safe, they're accepted. Don't light a cigarette because that affects me. We might have to listen to what I want to listen to because it's my car. So we're
don't touch my radio.
But you can certainly wear what you want to wear, and it has no effect on me whatsoever, other than we are sharing space. That's the difference. You don't have to go over there to be in your clothes. You could be right here. You don't have to do anything different, but that's the difference.
So shout out to Monica. You could be a cross-dresser in Monica's car. You ain't cross-dressing in my car. That's all. And I was just using that as an example.
My car.
Like I was being sarcastic and facetious, just using that as an example. But you get my point. At the end of the day, we get to determine who comes in our house. You go to some people. Look, you got to take your shoes off at the front door.
That's right.
If I got to take my shoes off at the front door, I didn't know I was coming over here, and I wouldn't. If I'd have known, I wouldn't have put the socks on that got holes in them. So guess what? I'm not coming to your house because I don't feel like my feet might stink a little. So it's all that did. Ain't no right or wrong. It just be respectful of everybody's boundaries, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because none of us, at the end of the day, none of us have a heaven or hell to put anybody into. So that's the way we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. Sam said, Marvin Bennett, I need you on to talk about the WNBA Wednesday. All right, 10-4, Sam. Just hit me up with a time. I'll make preparations, whatever. But yeah, Monica, it's always good talking to you. And like I said, you got an open invitation. We're gonna get you back on so we can get into some more things that bypass us or whatever happens between now and then. But I really thank you for taking out the time to be on here with me tonight and chopping it up.
Y'all stay up late over here. I have to take a nap when I'm coming over here. But thank you.
Now we usually don't go this long, but it was like we were just going back and forth tonight. I gotta find a way. I'm gonna actually get something where I can start chopping it up because I do want to get. I remember when we first started, we structuring it. There's no time limit, but we was kind of just keeping everything to an hour. But sometimes it go over. Sometimes that just depends on how many people get involved or whatever. But I'm gonna find out a way to start chopping the episodes up after we do them. That way people can see different clips of, and that way you ain't gotta stick around for almost 3 hours when you only really wanted to hear 15 minutes, this particular portion or whatever. But we're gonna figure that out. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening. God bless you.
You too. And everybody out there, you guys have a great week. Be safe out there this weekend. Again, salute. Prayers to all the kids that's going back to school, as well as the teachers and all the community. And as usual, in signing off, DeAndre and Lisha, know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. Till next week, peace.